What is going on, astrolabians of the internet? Welcome to the Astrolabe, brought to you by King Pilled and Axios Fitness Coaching. The King Pilled Discord is the place to be. Axios Fitness Coaching is the fitness coaching that you need in your life. I'll tell you guys more about that here in a little while. But first of all, happy Tuesday. I believe it's Tuesday. I think. Is it Tuesday? Yeah, all the days just kind of blend together for me. But whatever day it is, I hope it's a good one for you. I've got a just absolute packed show for you guys again today. Yesterday I tweeted out the master thread as I try to remember to do after I do an episode. It's Tuesday. Okay, good. I haven't lost my mind too much. I try to make sure I get the master thread tweeted out. So I go through all these different. If you haven't watched the show before, it's like a clip show, I suppose you might call it, a variety show, primarily from Twitter. I find all the tweets, the articles, the memes, the videos, the links, anything that caught my eye that I thought was entertaining or uplifting or newsworthy, and put it into a mostly organized presentation. So you can experience my Twitter timeline in a sense, in an audio format or video, as the case may be. We're streaming on YouTube and on Twitter for now. And so yesterday I did the master thread. As soon as I finished the show, I try to remember to tweet out a thread of all the clips and stuff that I went through. That way, if you want to go share them with other people or watch them or read them again yourself, then you can do that. So I was doing the master thread yesterday, and I was like, I think this might be the longest master thread that I've ever done. Because you get 20, little inside baseball, if you're ever doing tweet threads, you get 20 tweets in a row in a thread that you can compose all at once. Then you have to send it, and then thereafter put them in one by one. And yesterday I hit I usually am right just about 20, between 18 and 24 is typically where I land. I hit 20 yesterday when I was halfway through my second window of tabs, and I had 3 full windows of tabs. So I think it wound up being something like 36 or 38, somewhere in there. It's harder to keep track when I'm doing them individually. Today's going to give it a run for its money. I've got a whole bunch here as well. A bunch of videos. Some are funny. Some will probably piss you off. Some will inspire you, and then hopefully some will educate you. We're also going to read a post from the Old Glory Club, good friends of the show. Once upon a time, a guest of the show, Charlemagne, is the author of this post. I thought it was really good, really worth sharing. And going to talk a little bit about Tim Pool toward the end of the show today. Tim is threatening to stop doing anything basically except for his morning show. I just listened to the whole episode where he was talking with Dave Landau, and Ian Crossland jumped in toward the end. It was very interesting. Lots of people had lots of opinions about it. The comment section is roasting him. So I'll give you guys my take, because obviously Tim Pool and I are in the same industry. We do the same thing, and so basically I know what life is like for him, and I can provide my 2 cents, which probably isn't going to be Yeah, I'm a very good radical centrist, so I'm probably may not be all that satisfying. But then the last thing, something that came to mind for me last night while I was walking, I was walking the dog and I was listening to something. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I was listening to Dave the Distributist and Oren McIntyre, who I was stream sniping yesterday. Um, and I believe it was Dave just kind of offhandedly mentioned. I think that's what it was from. Might have been a different show. Anyways, whoever I was listening to offhandedly mentioned something about infinite games, and I was like, "Oh man, that's something I haven't thought about in a long time." Old Simon Sinek for you. So I think it's a good way to frame the way we should be looking at um, our current station. The difference between finite and infinite games. And you can tell when people are playing finite games and when they're playing infinite games. I think that's very relevant for our current era. So we'll wrap the show off with that. But we got to get to a whole bunch of Trump and Elon and our guys' posts. So do me a favor. We got 62 watching now, 22 likes. Hit the like button, folks. Let's see if we can get to 100. I want to see if we can get to 100 likes. We did it yesterday, in large part thanks to Mr. Jim Bob and him sending his rabid group of nubs and jorts over to raid us. But let's see if we can get to 100 just organically without a raid today. We've got 61 watching now. Typically, the show's been peaking somewhere between 120 and 150, depending on the subject matter. So if we could get to 100, that would be awesome. And is there any other housekeeping? Be on the lookout for a conversation with Jason Miranchuk and I. Probably, I haven't confirmed times with him yet, but I'm thinking probably tomorrow or Thursday. It'll be streamed as a members only stream. So if you are a King Pilled channel member here on YouTube, which you have to join by going to a browser, a desktop browser, you can't do it from mobile. But become a channel member, $5 a month. You can watch it that way. Or you can go to the King Pill Discord, the sponsor of this show. Go to the King Pill Discord at kingpill.com, and all the Discord members also get access to it without necessarily having to be YouTube channel members, because I'm a kind and generous king, and I don't think that I need to charge you guys twice for the same content. But yeah, we're gonna continue our conversation on Trump being installed, a controversial prediction that Jason has made and I have endorsed, and we're gonna elaborate on it a little more, and it'll be probably like the tone of it is probably going to be much more serious and cautionary than exultant, because while we do think it's very good that Trump is being installed and we would like him to be installed, that doesn't mean that it's all good. There's actually some very dark undercurrents that are going to make their way to the surface as a consequence of it, and it's not what you're thinking. I almost guarantee you it's not what you're thinking. If you know Jason's, he's talked about the tyrannical father, the devouring or smothering mother, and the vengeful son. And the antidote to the vengeful son is the prodigal son, and that is the difficult thing that we must do, is embody the prodigal son. So there's a little tease for that conversation. Should be dropping. We'll stream it as a members only stream either tomorrow or Thursday. So if you're not subscribed to Miranchuk now, you absolutely should be. That's the formerly known as the 2-Bit Podcast. He crested the peak of the mountain of the 2-Bit Podcast and surveyed off into the distance. If you've listened to his episodes, you know I'm totally ripping off his bit. He surveyed off in the distance. He saw a much greater mountain. And so he is making his way up that mountain, and it's great to see his channel exploding. So go subscribe to his channel. Go like this show. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't, or follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. I've been popping off some bangers lately. The timeline is loving it. I'm just shit posting, and apparently I've touched a vein, because I had a really huge blow up with a couple of major viral tweets around the Trump Kamala debate, and then I dropped off to like. I think the most I got 1 million impressions in one day. And then I dropped off, and I've been getting like 5,000 impressions because I just haven't been tweeting. Being on the road for a lot of that took a big hit. So all of these algorithms are just, they survive off of engagement. You have to keep feeding the algorithm if you want it to feed you back. But if you do feed the algorithm, then it will feed you back. All right, let's rock and roll here. So, I've got a handful of kind of substanceless, just entertaining, fun slop videos that that I've been accumulating, and they all kind of fit the vibe here today. So we'll get started with a couple of these. I've teased to you guys this project that we're working on in the background, and this sort of thing, I'll say this kind of broadly, but I've got my eye peeled for this kind of content. It's jumping out, it's standing out to me, and I've got an extra appreciation for it right now. So let me share this with you guys. That's maybe another little tease.
Are your parents gooners?
No.
What do they do?
My dad's an edger.
Oh, what's he edged over?
I guess he's more of a joker, really.
Oh, joker.
Yeah, just like yours too.
What about your mother? What does she do?
I don't know. She did OnlyFans when I was a baby.
So no gooners in the family. Well, you just gotta watch the greats then. Someone like Ava Chris Tyson. You know I mog you right. Because unlike you, I actually look smacks. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to me, Neiman. The key is to just goon max. Don't worry about the edgers, Neiman. Don't worry about the other guys who are joking. You're here for only one good reason. It's because you're a total gooner. Am I right, Peeman?
Yeah.
That's a good boy. But you forgot to say something. Say it. Don't be shy. I know you have it in you.
I'm a total gooner.
Cool. Now stop staring at me like an NPC. Are your parents gooners?
This is such a fascinating piece of art. It's so incredibly well done, so incredibly conceived, and yet so incredibly lowbrow and clearly targeted at a small but extremely passionate niche. There's a micro fraction of the Earth's population that would even understand the references in this. It's a growing segment of the population, but it's still extremely small. This is visionary art, if I do say so myself. Another one, kind of a related vein.
What's up, nigga? I need more Fent. I need it bad.
He's trying to get me to give him more Fent.
He's amazing.
If you niggas don't turn the Fent back to up a notch, I am gonna come break your pussy ass neck, nigga.
Should we increase the Fent reactor release rate?
Not until he completes the mission.
Okay, so no Fent?
Tell him that. In a way, he will understand.
Listen, my nigga. You are not getting any more Fent until Operation Banana Mayonnaise Sandwich is complete. Heard?
Hell nah, fuck you, nigga. I need a motherfucking syrup sandwich right now. Shit.
It's George Droid. Man, I can't get enough of this stuff. This is, I am a proud cultivator of slop. So here's some S-tier brain rot. This guy says, for real, learned more in these 1-minute reels than multiple semesters of math ever taught me. And there's something, this is slop. This is slop of the highest tier. But there's something that's magical about, hold on. What's playing? Something just randomly started playing in my ears. Where is it coming from? Kill it. Die. Can you guys hear that? I cannot for the life of me figure out what is playing. I know what's playing, but I have no idea where it's coming from. Ah. Okay. Well, you guys couldn't hear that. You guys are going to hear it in a little bit. This is very funny. There is such a wonderful little wink from the universe at me. You guys will have to hold on for a little while to get to that. But that was very, very odd. I'm sitting here listening to this video. It's playing, and just all of a sudden something starts playing in my ears, and I know exactly where it is, but I don't know where it's coming from. It was another tab that I have open. That's never happened to me. I've got like 40 tabs open right now. Most of them have video in them, and I have never had one just randomly start playing in the background, but it's just, believe me, you guys will get it in a little bit. It was too good. All right. So let's play the brain rot here. That actually, what was I saying? I was saying that in every really dark thing, there's a little speck of light. There's something that's great in it. This is something that on the surface is really dark, but there's actually a great, a great gem in the middle. Let me play it.
Differentiation even useful?
Well, me and JJ even used it when we was playing Minecraft last night.
We only had 20 fences left to build an enclosure, but it was annoying because however we built it, the area was always different.
So how do you think we made the biggest area we could?
First, I bet you said that 2 of these lengths plus this width would need to equal your 20 fences.
But wouldn't we care more about the area of that rectangle?
Yeah, the area of the rectangle is what we want to maximize.
And obviously that's length times width, LW.
So at this point, me and JJ rearranged this top equation to get W, and then subbed it into the area equation to get rid of it.
So why'd you get rid of W?
Because now we have A as a function of just L.
And this is way more useful now, because area versus length has this lovely little graph.
So to maximize the area, we want to find this point up here where area is as big as can be.
Haley, we both know that's called a maximum, and it's basically where the derivative of our area function is equal to 0.
Oh, so we need the derivative.
Yeah, so you know what to do.
Say it.
Get out the power rule and differentiate that thing.
Somebody turn that off.
No, I enjoy the song.
Thank you. Okay, now to find the value of L at this highest point, where the derivative is 0, we can set the derivative to 0 and solve for L.
0 equals 20 minus 4L, so 4L equals 20, L equals 5.
So you get the biggest area when L is 5.
5 fences.
And remember, we had exactly 20 fences, so this width is going to be 10 of them.
Okay, so the biggest space we can build is 5 fences by 10 and is 50 fences squared in area.
Area maxing complete.
This is so you've got the really dark thing is the existence of slop, of brain rot, and together with that the implication, the corollary that you've got all these young people who are just sitting here just brain rotting their brains constantly. And then suddenly you get this subversive little thing plugged in there. And it's like I don't know, I'm imagining and visualizing like these NPCs that are just kind of like walking along like zombies with this stream of stuff coming into their head. And all of a sudden it's like this dark gray stream. And all of a sudden you get these little flecks of light in it and they start perking up. This is actually like a genuinely good way to teach people who are addicted to TikTok. This is a really good way to actually teach them something. Like this is going to be a successful educational model for people. Someone just happens upon it. They're like, hey, you know, what if we actually took this sort of thing and made it relevant to people? And all of a sudden, the autism is already there, so you're just redirecting the autism at something productive. This is going to be the birth of so many engineering careers. You could do this with almost any subject as well. But it reminds me of when I was in college, and I was always good at math because I was good at like memorizing the formulas, but I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't like I was like, yeah, here, I can answer all of the questions for you, but I don't know what any of it means, and I don't know why I know this, and it's gone. I could barely follow this now. And one day when I was in college, I was taking an accounting degree, and for an accounting degree, I needed to learn calculus. I had to take a certain number of calculus classes. So I had the option of taking Calc 1 or Survey of Calc. And when I first got to college, I'd taken a couple of years off of school, and I was working and traveling and doing a bunch of stuff. And I came back in my first year of college. I was taking A and P and pre-calc in the same quarter, and I was dying. I'd completely forgotten in just a couple of years. I'd completely forgotten how to be a student, how to learn, how to like fall into the groove of the classroom schedule and everything, and I was drowning. And so then when I switched to accounting, and I was like, man, okay, I gotta do this calc thing again. And I decided to do Survey of Calc because I was like, well, you know, I'd like to have the broadest picture I can. And then I learned after getting into Survey of Calc that it was kind of like taking a sampling from Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, and Calc 4. So I would be getting to Calc 4. Like if I just done Calc 1, I never would have had to deal with Calc 4. But since I did it this way, I had to. And so the semester got worse, or the quarter got worse and worse. I was just drowning. Was trying to figure out how to keep up with all this stuff, but it was just super abstract and irrelevant. Didn't make any sense. And then one day we had a teacher. Guy rolled around in a wheelchair. He was a funny old dog. And And there was a bunch of us that were just staring at him blankly, not understanding a concept. And he just kind of something snapped, and he was like, all right, he just grabs the thing, erases everything on the board, and then he drew just like a simple graph. And he said, if I had to get you to solve for the area under this line here, how would you do that? Really simple, straightforward. We just told, okay, we do the. And he goes, okay, now take that line and make it curvy. Now how do you solve it? And then take that line and instead of it being curvy, make it be like it's like flowing. So it's not just like a static curvy line, but it's a dynamic curvy line. Now how do you solve for the area? And I was just like completely like changed my whole perspective. I was like, oh shit, that's what all this is for. Oh, there's something relevant to this. It's not just memorizing a bunch of numbers. Like imagine trying to teach someone the alphabet but never teaching them how to talk. Like here, you have to memorize this alphabet. Why? Okay, yeah, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I can recite that, but why? Well, it's because you're going to take these things and you're going to plug them into these different orders, and all of a sudden meaning is going to spring from it. And I was this close to switching to a math major. Like I wanted to get into fluid dynamics and all that. And now, of course, I'm back to grug brain with math. Like I said, I could barely follow this, even when it's being broken down for brain rot consumers. But this is like, when people talk about AI teachers, this is an AI teacher. It doesn't have to be like a person, an AI person that is mimicking, looks like a real person who's talking to you and has like a personal relationship to you. Impersonal relationship as the case may be. This is an AI teacher. Hazael says, Matt, do you remember the epsilon delta proof? Those are words in the English language, and I recognize most of them. Two of them, actually, I suppose, are they technically are words in the English language, but they're also not. But I have no idea what you're talking about. This was the story I just told you was 16 years ago, and it's been a long 16 years. Shout out to @JohnDwayne5 on Twitter. He says, my liege, I bring tribute. Submissions for the Astrolabe. You guys can. If you see something and you would like to see it on the Astrolabe, then you can send it to me. Best way to do it is on X, @RealKingPilled. You can also, I guess, you could email something to me, realkingpilled@gmail.com. Or you can join the King Pill Discord, and you can post stuff in there. And that's where I harvest a lot of my content. But he posted this, and I'm very glad he did. This is perfectly fitting with the theme.
Back up in your ass with the resurrection. Is the group harder than an erection that shows no affection? They want to ban us on Capitol Hill, cause it's die, motherfuckers, die, motherfuckers. All along it was a ghetto, nothing but the ghetto. Taking short steps, 1 foot at a time, and keep my head low and never let go. Cause if I let go, then I'll be spineless. I'm going insane. I'm loving it.
The I'm loving it at the end just ties it off so perfectly. Oh, man. Shout out to John Dwayne. Let's give him a follow. All right. Keeping it moving. So there's been a bunch of great stuff that has come out of this Trump McDonald's thing. And this guy, I've seen him before, Sean Farash. He does a very good Trump impression. Apparently, he had Trump's first retweet on Truth Social. New York to Tennessee. That's interesting. And he does a great Trump impression. This one just absolutely takes the cake. This is incredible.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it, and they're loving me. I'm honored to have been elected McDonald's Employee of the Year. What a tremendous honor. And the fake news is saying the only reason I won is because of Russia. What a bunch of horrible people.
Perfect.
Disgrace. On day one at McDonald's, I fixed the ice cream machine. Nobody ever thought that was possible, but I did it. I fixed the ice cream machine, and on day one as your president, I'm going to fix our great country. We will have a great country once again. I just found out that I'm being indicted again. They say I put too much salt on the French fries, too much salt, and they say that I had a 15-minute lunch break that took 17 minutes, and that's because the fake news wouldn't let me go. They wanted to know how I was doing, and I was doing so well. Kamala never worked in McDonald's,
good.
and the reason we know that is because they wouldn't let her do a job interview with a teleprompter. She said, that's not going to work. We need the teleprompter, and it didn't work out. I did so well at McDonald's, they named a new meal after me. It's called the McWin. And it comes in small, medium, and MAGA-sized. And we're going to have a MAGA-sized McWin on November 5th. So get out and vote, and let's make America great again, believe me.
That is incredible. He didn't miss a single beat in there. He got every last little bit of the cadence. I'm sitting here, I'm doing the Trump fingers. He's such a meme. He even hit me subconsciously. It like you can tell it's not him if you're just sitting there listening. Like there's something that it's not quite him naturally. Like you're not, but it sounds like Trump through the radio or something. It's so perfect. MAGA-sized McWin is unbelievable. We'll know that we've won when McDonald's releases their MAGA-sized McWin burger. That is not outside the realm of possibility. You talk about the installation of Trump, and it's got its upsides and its downsides. One of the upsides is that it's a very realistic possibility that within the next 2 years or so, McDonald's is doing MAGA-themed meals. That's the trajectory of the culture right now. So we may have just gotten a little peek into the future. Uncle Doomer here is a great poster, a powerful mutual of mine, a wonderful listener of this show, is friends with him, and I shared a couple of his clips on here, and he tagged us and connected us. So he's just a undefeated poster. So I have to play this one for you guys just because of the pure vibes.
I used to rule the world. Seas would rise when I gave the word. Now in the morning I sleep alone. Sweep the streets I used to own. I used to roll the dice, feel the fear in my enemy's eyes. Listen as a crowd would sing. Now the old king is dead, long live the king. The minute I held the key, next the walls were closed on me, and I discovered a castle stand upon pillars of stone and pillars of sand. Jerusalem bells are ringing, Roman cavalry choirs are singing. Be my mirror, my sword and shield, my missionaries in a foreign field. For some reason I can't explain, I know St. Peter won't call my name. Never an honest word, that was when I ruled the world.
Man, it's just taken off too. It could have kept going. Powerful, powerful stuff. This is like getting this stuff out into the culture is manifesting beautiful things. Wit says this was all a plot by Cali Means and RFK to bring up seed oils. I 100% would not doubt that they were big behind making this happen. Because that's the direction that it's gone. I've got some stuff on the RFK and seed oils thing here in a little bit, but I've got some more increasing from slop to actual quality. So this next one here is a video posted by another good friend of the show, past guest Wade Stotts. One reason why the Trump McDonald's thing was perfect. Trump is McDonald's, extremely popular, but everyone's afraid to admit they like it. Now, of course, I'm waiting for the the chat that's going to come in that says, well, actually, I don't like it. I can't imagine. I don't understand how people eat it. Yes. Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes. You are the exception. Pride yourself in that. But everyone likes McDonald's, but it's low class to admit it. No one wants to admit it. It's like Creed. Everyone likes it. There's something in them that just, but they're like, no. It's yucky. It's low class. It's bad musically. There's some reason why it's not good. But deep down, everyone likes Creed. Same thing with McDonald's.
Oh, and by the way, to Whoopi Goldberg and to Sonny and to all of the folks at The View, I don't think it's accurate to say that somehow Hollywood is both a liberal and a conservative town. To Whoopi's point, back in the day, there might have been a bit more of a balance, and there have always been more, let's say, conservative-leaning stars that have been able to say those things. But you really have to be at a certain level of your career in order to get away with it. Number one. But number two, that was also back then. And I think naming just John Voight and Dennis Quaid, and really you only named John Voight, Whoopi. Somebody else had to help you with Dennis Quaid. Of the thousands of actors in Hollywood that you could only name two, I think actually speaks to that. And what that means is there's plenty, and by the way, they have sent me lots of messages, plenty of people in my industry, in Hollywood, that are terrified to publicly say that they would vote for Donald Trump or be conservative in any way. That's why you don't see them. That's why they're not very prevalent or prominent, because they know that there's ramifications for this kind of shit. But like I said, y'all, our industry is going to be fucking gonzo. Like, it already is. We're getting eroded. The pandemic and the strikes and all these things, they've already eroded it so much. So, my cry to all of you out there, you closeted conservatives, closeted Trump voters, y'all, it's now or never. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I do whatever you feel like you need to do. If you need to come out publicly and say it, if you feel like you still can't, then don't. I would never pressure you to that. But know that if what you're afraid of is somehow the backlash of an industry that's not going to exist very soon, then don't let that hold you back.
I've never listened to Zachary Levi talk before, but the guy's got some depth to him. Never would have imagined that I would see Chuck out here preaching the pro-Trump message, telling people in Hollywood to nut up. And he's going pretty far. Like, he's saying Hollywood's not going to exist if we keep this up. The people are noticing. This is the direction that the culture is going. The culture is going MAGA. For better or for worse. Hollywood will cease to exist, will cease to be profitable, will cease to be a useful means of propaganda if it insists on continuing the whole anti-Trump pretense. It's happening. And it's going to keep happening faster. You have to prepare yourself for that. If you aren't prepared for that and you don't recognize that it's happening, then you're living in a fantasy world. We have the opportunity now to be at the cutting edge, to be the vanguard, to accumulate the capital that comes with that. Both financial capital and social capital, cultural capital. To actually be able to have some say in the narrative. Because there will be the narrative. You're not going to get your narrative. No one will. By its nature. The narrative, trademarked, is not the property of anyone. Nobody can lay claim to it, because the act of trying to lay claim to the narrative, when taken too far, moving more and more toward 100%, the act of doing that creates rejection to the narrative. So there will always be a remainder left, Pareto's residues. You'll have that remainder that's left that becomes the foundation of the new culture, the new narrative, That new narrative exists to the exclusion of what's not the narrative. And the act of excluding the not narrative forms the narrative until the point that it becomes the impetus for the new narrative that exists as the not narrative of the existing narrative. I said narrative a lot there. Hopefully you guys are tracking with this. This process continues. It's an infinite game. I'll talk about finite and infinite games here at the end, or at the end of the stream. You guys are probably familiar with it. If you spent any time adjacent to LinkedIn culture, but it's a very real thing. Will Tanner, Powerful Mutual, says, I think the Trump McDonald's visit hit home with so many. The reason the Trump McDonald's visit hit home with so many is that it was a glimmer of nobility, of a time of hierarchy and noblesse oblige, rather than the usual American politician thing of pretending to be a prole as shown by what he wore. A thread. Look at this. Just legendary photo. This is actually something that Trump is quite good at. Unlike all the other American politicians who dress in flannel when they want to look like a country person, t-shirts when they want to look casual, and a suit when they want to look formal, Trump just wears his suit. He's not lower class. He's not middle class. He's not upper middle class. He's a billionaire, the upper part of the upper class. As such, he doesn't wear casual clothes. He wears what he should wear, a suit and tie with French cuffs and polished black shoes at all times, unless he's playing golf or tennis when the specific clothing for that sport is much more appropriate. There are few people who still do that. The only real example is the old title slice of the British peerage and the monarchy, along with some other aristocracies and monarchies abroad. You never see them in anything other than a suit unless it's more appropriate to be in something else. And this institution here, the one remaining one, the British peerage and the monarchy, is disappearing. It's dying. That's what we're experiencing. We're experiencing the death of the British Empire. It's been shambling along as a barely sentient husk of itself and living primarily through its extension of American power by proxy. You might even call it parasitical. And it's dying. It's going away, which means there's a massive void opening up for the class of aristocracy and nobility. And it turns out that there's a deep heritage of that in the United States. Go listen to Stormy Waters' Robber Barons series with Pete Quinones. In fact, it's only when they've fallen and degraded that they stop doing that, speaking of the British nobility. Harry, for example, now that he's married to a race communist, dresses down, much unlike his father and brother. Notably, he started doing that once he moved to democratic America and shunned his noble roots. This is a longer thread. I thought there was more to this, but it looks like Twitter might have broken the thread. Here it is. All that is to say, those members of the upper strata who are self-confident and live according to tradition and duty don't feel the need to dress down to appeal to democracy. There's no point to that. It's nonsense, and everyone sees through it. But most of America's billionaires dress down to try to look like the common man. It's weird and off-putting. You know what's weird and off-putting is, holy crap. Yeah. Yeah, Twitter's thread mechanism is breaking. Trump doesn't do that. He dresses like he ought. More importantly, he acts like it too. He doesn't pretend to be a random peon. He instead acts in a self-confident way. Further, he doesn't condescend. He treats those around him as he should, as people whose lives and jobs are worthy of respect and consideration rather than looking down on them. He jokes with them, put them at ease, and respects their work without seeming like an ass as he did so. Meanwhile, his enemies spent 24 hours mocking the job and those who do it, all while pretending to represent the common man. The thing is, Trump's mode of acting is quite old, whereas the hate directed his way is quite new. It is really the conflict between gentry/aristocracy and managerialism, the conflict between the old world and new, bureaucratic world. Trump is acting, as suggested by his self-confident bearing and dress, like the old, whereas his enemies very much represent the new. The old is broadly the country squire, the local man of quality who hunted and lived in a country house rather than a little cottage, but who knew his tenants and who would have his servants serve those farmers a glass of beer or cider when they stopped by, who hosted coming-of-age parties and similar events in which he would invite the whole village over. That squire didn't pretend to be a normal working man. He wore a frock coat and top boots rather than working clothes, drank wine rather than beer, and spent his time outdoors hunting the fox and shooting the pheasant rather than digging ditches or farming fields. But he also knew those who were under him and helped his community. It was a hierarchy at which he sat toward the top and acted the part, but in which there was also a sense of responsibility toward those below. You still see this in King Charles III being, as Johann Kurtz recently pointed out on my podcast with him, someone who advocates for issues like regenerative agriculture and classical architecture that serve the people and beautify their lives. Notably, he does that while acting like a royal rather than dressing down and pretending to be one of his subjects, much as Trump always acts like a billionaire. Not so much today. Today, instead of having gentlemen in charge, we have bureaucrats and managers. Those bureaucrat and managers don't live around or have any idea about normal people, even those working under them. They never do the work, never see the work, and avoid those who do the work as best as they're able, all while feigning a sense of total unearned superiority to them. So you get people running a company who have no idea how it actually operates and the work gets done, people sending soldiers to die who never even knew a soldier, much less fought as one, and those who constantly pretend to be normal while nursing a constantly aggrieved sense of superiority. You saw this in the leftist outrage that Trump had an easy time packing fries at McDonald's. To them, such a job is so foreign as to be both seen as impossible and utterly derided at the same time. That's not Trump. He's always in a suit, but also was known for walking around his job sites and having an easy camaraderie with the men working them, sometimes something otherwise entirely foreign to our government, but which Trump was still like when in office, and when he was at McDonald's. So Trump didn't feel the need to condescend by dressing down. He just took off his jacket, put on his apron, and had an easy time with those around him. There was no lurking sense of inferiority and belief of superiority that manifested in tiresome resentment, something you see with the rest of the managerial class and which manifests in billionaires wearing t-shirts. I think it's interesting that Trump intuitively represents the old despite being mostly a new man, and that because of it, he has easy camaraderie with those around him and who is more popular than any other American president or even politician in recent memory. He's not fake. I don't think that this thread was as coherent as I intended it. For those who read with confusion, my central point is this. Americans don't like phonies. They like real men who behave as they ought, even if that initially seems out of place, like cufflinks at a friar. It's honest and thus good, much like the aristocratic order was honest about what it was about. That makes for camaraderie across social classes, as Trump shows in an honest way that our bureaucratic overlords and their system are entirely devoid of. I think Trump also cares about those with whom he meets and wants their lives to be better. Further, he has a sense of needing to use his wealth and resources to effect that, but in an aristocratic rather than philanthropic way. Hence the noblesse oblige comment. Sorry if that wasn't stated well. And then he's got a link to an article that he wrote called "The Death of the Gentleman and the Birth of Bureaucratic Tyranny." So I'll post this thread if you want to go read through it and you want to go read that article of his. Then I'll post this in the master thread that comes out after the show. So I read a couple of Newsweek articles yesterday reacting some of the tweets from Kamala's proxies and such, reacting to this brilliant political stunt. They just can't help themselves. Oh, it was a stunt. Yeah, everyone knows it was a stunt. It was a really frickin' brilliant stunt that was executed to perfection. So here's some more reeing. Here's a headline from sportskita.com. Trump reportedly served French fries without hairnet or gloves at a McDonald's location previously cited for health code violations. Matthew Boycourt, Trump fries, his bare hands serving food ready for consumption. That's a health code violation and a safety concern. Doesn't anyone truly know what a food handler's license is anymore? We don't need to read any more of it, but that just... You cannot black pill in this world. Our enemies are retarded. John Ekdahl says, my theory on the great liberal McDonald's freakout is this. Donald Trump is not allowed to have fun. Remember, he's the physical avatar of humanity's cruelty, evil, and malice. The left has also spent a large amount of time, money, and energy through both media and legal campaigns targeting his livelihood and even his personal freedom, all to ensure that the man can never crack a smile again for the rest of his life. And then he did, while donning an apron and serving fries. They can't handle it. That image right there, they have lambasted him with everything imaginable, and he just cracks a smile and serves some fries. One of the most memeable moments of all time. And one that could only come from a guy of great character. So Scorched Earth Policy is one of my favorite posters. He goes on these epic screeds every few days. And the dude has just an epic mastery of the English language. I absolutely love his writing style. And he posted what I called, I said that we need to take this and frame it and put it in the National Archives with the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So these are the images that he included. Trump's got a long documented history with McDonald's. And this is what he said. One of Donald Trump's most iconic aesthetic motifs is his love of McDonald's. Besides the name matching to such a degree that he mantles his identity onto a pseudo-mascot for the brand, Trump's love of McDonald's also exemplifies an inherent patriotism, which is far more genuine than anything prior presidents could possibly manage. Donald Trump's unabashed enthusiasm for McDonald's is an authentic embodiment of American values, which exceeds the sincerity of possibly any president within the past 200 years. McDonald's is arguably the most relevant symbol of American culture and identity, exceeding that of apple pies, baseball, firearms, bald eagles, and the flag itself. The burger is the ultimate American symbol, a perfect coalescence of the entire food pyramid, an archetypical recipe structure mimicked by nearly every culture, a series of ingredients which span both old and new world domestic staples, and, most importantly, a representation of capitalism in its rawest and most efficient form. Of all burgers, the most quintessential burger is the McDonald's burger. Depending on the nation, this may be the iconic Big Mac, the legendary McDouble, or a number of other creative or hideous country-specific concoctions. McDonald's is globally ubiquitous. Nearly every country has a McDonald's. Every McDonald's is like a U.S. embassy establishing its culture mark upon whatever host nation has succumbed to the pure financial incentive of its influence. Armed with the sword of Coca-Cola to cut through whatever culture it has usurped, McDonald's represents the United States in its most robust legacy. Long after our country is shattered, eroded, shifted, transmogrified, or subsumed by the inevitability of the future, our culture and history will be earmarked by twin golden arches mythopoetically attached to our esoteric symbolism as a retrospective coat of arms for the great American empire. Contemporary commentators criticize Trump's shameless love of McDonald's as a staple of tackiness, but it is through this love that Trump establishes himself as a sincere American. He truly embraces America in its purest form every time he orders McDonald's or wields it in front of the American populace. He fully dives into the great thresher of pure market efficiency, reducing all prior pretensions of authentic culture and fully acknowledging that for better or worse, America is capitalism in its rawest form. The United States was built on a foundation of capitalistic venture. Its first Spanish colonists in St. Augustine were in search of in search of gold, land, and expansion. Its first English colony in Jamestown was an all-male contingent of enterprisers, accountants, lawyers, and gentlemen mixed with a minority of laborers and workers. They were all seeking wealth through the intense risk of being first settlers in the North. Every single aspect of American history is the pursuit of fortune and glory through bold venture into wild, uncharted territory. McDonald's itself is a testament to capitalistic ambition. Much like the pioneers of Manifest Destiny and cutthroat robber barons carving out an empire through the underutilized bounty of the West, Ray Kroc usurped the hyper-efficient family-oriented restaurant model created by the McDonald's brothers in the 1950s and transformed it into a real estate empire, establishing the fast food franchise and building an unyielding egregore that exceeds the scope and grasp of any one man, along the same momentum as the military-industrial complex or any mega corporation today. McDonald's represents capitalism in its purest form. Much like the generic corporate delivery pizza represents what constitutes the platonic ideal of what a pizza should be, much to the chagrin of pretentious gastronomes, uppity New Yorkers, and indignant Italians, McDonald's has mastered what a burger should be, for better or worse. Sure, everyone's favorite local shithole diner or concept bistro has a better burger, but nobody does it with the same degree of ubiquity, availability, and absolute consistency. The McDonald's burger isn't just a burger. It is the standard by which all burgers are measured. It is a burger with a neutral pH, a true north to anchor the burger spectrum. McDonald's is a litmus for the health of the nation itself. Its current status as cheap, unhealthy slop is half psychosomatic and half genuine due to seed oil cooked fries, processed cheese, and some chemical preservatives in the buns. This is simply a mirror for the civilization in which the McDonald's burger exists. We as a society have chosen to accept poison in our lives through the soft internal coup of our federal agencies at the hands of ill-intentioned parasites seeking to subdue our population. And so our McDonald's reflects this. McDonald's was once a cheap, relatively healthy meal targeted towards families. Its current state as a disposable feeding trough for the lower class only shows what we have allowed for ourselves, what our institutions choose to cater towards. McDonald's is a perfect pillar of direct assessment for the value of our currency. The price of Big Mac is used to track inflation, both on a national and global scale across decades of time. McDonald's represents America's economic presence so consistently that no two nations which host McDonald's franchises may ever be at war with one another, with the company suspending its operations in whichever country least aligns with American interests if such an event occurs. McDonald's itself will continue to exist long after America, continuing its empiric presence through the changing of names, titles, leadership, and populace. There's a McDonald's in the Pentagon. There's a McDonald's at Guantanamo Bay. There's a McDonald's in the Arctic Circle. There's a McDonald's built into ancient Roman ruins. There's a McDonald's built into the former Taiwanese president's villa at Hangzhou. There will be a McDonald's built on the moon. Colonists on the slopes of Europa will fabricate McDonald's patties while overlooking a red horizon totally occupied by a sun-swept Jupiter. McDonald's arches printed upon air-sealed food packs will represent a symbol of Tehran ancestral home to the schoolchildren who have only known the gravity of ring worlds. The raw conceptual interpretation of a McDouble will be interpretively manufactured by and for rogue autonomous AIs who will carry out McDonald's consumptive legacy in a realm of existence we will never comprehend on a timescale exceeding the human species. Somewhere in the great airport that resides just after death and just before the afterlife, where dreams, souls, and primordial entities collide with the traces of the physical world, there's a McDonald's heralded by fifth-dimensional oscillating golden arches, echoing out the raw spiritual blast of 12 trillion cattle all transpiring into one timeless, momentous nuclear scream echoing out into the indefinite plane to be barely registered as a whisper in the ears of God. You will visit there when you die, and you will order a burger, paying for it with a tiny shaving of your soul. Behind the glowing orb of its languageless menu, you will see the American flag barely concealing its ancestral forms, shifting from colonial British into a Roman eagle, and further towards empiric symbols of society's lost to written history. Donald Trump's figure and form will be one of many carved into the walls of its localized reality, speaking with Caesar's face and the voice of the first caveman who discovered wheat. He, they, it, you, will be thanking you for stopping by. You're the Donald Trump of effort posting, says Josh Rayner. Just one of the most legendary tweets that I've ever seen. This is prose. This guy's a masterful writer. And who is he? Chief of Staff at Ramilia Corporation, Warlord Commander at Yayo Corporation. This is not a promise of equity or ownership in anything. Followed by Eric Prince. National Post. First reading, Donald Trump's sudden wild popularity among young Canadians. Polls show that if young Canadian men decided the U.S. election, Trump could win. Shout out to the Leafs. Shout out to Dimes. He's been doing good work. A survey published Monday by the Environics Institute found that if Piss off. Oh, it's going to do this to me? It didn't do this on mobile. If Canadians were allowed to decide the U.S. presidential election, Democratic nominee Kamala Harris, let me get through this as much as I can, would win by 60%. Canadians always favor the Democrat in these types of polls, but Trump's 21% makes him more popular among Canadians than any other Republican presidential candidate of the last 2 decades. Shockingly. It also means that about as many Canadians would vote for Trump as would vote for their own prime minister. The Liberal Party under Justin Trudeau is currently charting in the low 20s in opinion polls. The Environics numbers are particularly unprecedented when it comes to youth sentiment. Trump's strongest base of Canadian support was found to be among voters under the age of 34. The 18 to 34 demographic backed Trump by 28%, more than double the 13% of Canadian senior citizens in the Trump camp. And among under 34 men, the results were tied, 36% for Trump and 36% for Harris. This portends great things for the future, folks. Remember when everyone said that when the older generations died off, the younger generations coming in were just going to going to be the most radically deranged, satanic, liberal, like end of humanity generation ever. That this was the last hope. Once the boomers are gone, then we're doomed to eternal leftism. The kids are on the rise. MAGA is mainstream. Our values are becoming cool. What that means, the dark side of this, is that as this is Jason's Neotrad's prediction, our values are going to become mainstream, which means the predominance of it is going to be hollow, fake simulacra of our values. It's going to be really cringy. Russell Brand and his whitey tighties baptizing people and selling magic amulets. But there will be the good stuff as well. Young couples getting together and making babies and buying land and building things that matter. Great titans of industry reasserting themselves and accepting their responsibility to provide for their people. We're going to have that too. The world that you live in is the world that you choose to live in. And yes, I agree, we need to invade and liberate the Leafs. As, what was the original tweet here? Where is it? Back. Powerful mutual vagrant of roads says soon. This is what I'm talking about. And memeing aside, I think this is, it's effectively already the case, but it's going to become even more the case. As Europe caves in on itself with the great sovereign debt collapse that's going to be starting ASAP, Canada is going to be split off from the British Empire. Canada is going to become, if not formally, much more informally, just a client of the United States. And I wouldn't be shocked to see the border dissolved fully. As the American empire comes into its own, it's going to consume Canada and Mexico. I'm talking on a century timeline. But that's part of what makes these memes so good, is there is something real to them. Broke, studying climate change. Bespoke, studying how to melt the ice caps more quickly to obtain more land for our northern conquests. Canada yearns for the embrace of his elder brother. Canada became our client with the USMCA, yes. But there's still, Canada became Mexico's client with the USMCA. Yeah, that's a good point. There's still a perceptual sense of it being separate, and what I'm predicting is that even that perceptual sense is going to go away. I don't know what we're looking at a complete change in the way that countries govern themselves. So simply trying to, the American empire is going to be an empire that's characterized in a particular way. It's not just going to be take all the characteristics of the British Empire and transplant them onto the American empire, and it's going to be like a one-for-one comparison. The very nature of nations is being challenged. But I'm talking about in terms of a landmass operating as a single sovereign unit on some scale. That's what is going to happen. Remember, he told us this would happen, and no one believed him.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning, and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
We have to win more. He warned us. You believe him now? I know that that audio was kind of quiet, so I tried to turn it up. Hopefully it was not too high, not too low, because we're going to keep moving here, and we've got more videos coming up. So RFK capitalized on the moment with this, first of all, this just absolute keynote image. Look what they took from us. Look what we will have once again. Fast food is a part of the American culture, but that doesn't mean it has to be unhealthy and that we can't make better choices. Did you know that McDonald's used to use beef tallow to make their fries from 1940 until phasing it out in favor of seed oils in 1990? This switch was made because saturated animal fats were thought to be unhealthy, but we have since discovered that seed oils are one of the driving causes of the obesity epidemic. Interestingly enough, this began to drastically rise around the same time fast food restaurants switched from beef tallow to seed oils in their fryers. People who enjoy a burger with fries on a night out aren't to blame, and Americans should have every right to eat out at a restaurant without being unknowingly poisoned by heavily subsidized seed oils. It's time to make frying oil tallow again. And I want to highlight this particular phrase. People who enjoy a burger with fries on a night out aren't to blame. RFK may be a lefty, performatively, but what this implies is he is right-wing at heart, because he's implicitly recognizing the responsibility of those higher in the hierarchy for those below them. This is correct. The people who go out and eat a burger with fries on a night out, who are being poisoned by seed oils, it's not their fault that that's how things are. Now, they can take responsibility for it and work to change it. And what we're seeing is an emergent feedback loop where these sorts of grassroots kinds of things. Remember seed oils being this like super fringy, weird thing that only kind of internet crackpots talked about? And now we have the Trump campaign talking about making this a core part of their platform. We need to return to the immigration policy of that era, too. Mike Solana says, I've been waiting for the McDonald's discourse pivot to beef tallow French fries. Thank you, Bob, and fuck canola oil. Let's make fast food great again. Hell yeah! And our liege, fries cooked in beef tallow are better. So here we go. We've got Elon and RFK both on the beef tallow bandwagon. It's going to happen. McDonald's is going to move back. You know what's going to happen is it's going to create a bunch of demand for beef tallow using restaurants. There's no better time in the world to be a beef tallow fry making restaurant. You just need a little bit of social media game. And it's going to meme McDonald's into it just out of sheer spiritual power. Catherine Boyle, American Dynamism, Andreessen Horowitz, says, it's been years since a new issue was introduced to the political landscape. It will be decades until this issue no longer matters. The introduction of eradicating obesity as a political policy and party platform is one of the most consequential decisions of this election. This is a historic election on many fronts, but this is a big new thing for American politics. Okay, so as we're talking about patronage and the various different political factions at play, here's the part of the show that's going to make everyone mad. But don't worry, I'm gonna pull out of the tailspin. So Vivek tweeted, this is a direct quote from Tim Walz's education appointee in Minnesota. You can't be a critical race theorist and be pro-U.S.
And we're also sometimes lying on ourselves when people say like, oh, we use critical race theory in school. We don't use critical race theory in school. The first tenet of critical race theory is that the United States as constructed is irreversibly racist. So if the nation state as constructed is irreversibly racist, then it must be done with. It must be overthrown, right? And so we can't be like, oh no, critical race theory is just about telling our stories and It's not about that. It's about overthrow. It's insurgent. And we need to be, I think, more honest with that. And it's funny that they don't understand critical race theory, but they actually tell some truth when they're like, yeah, it is anti-state. You can't be a critical race theorist and be pro-U.S. Okay, it is an anti-state theory that says the United States needs to be deconstructed period, right? Like that's, and so I think it's an interesting argument there, and that's why I'm a critical race theorist. But
so this was Tim Walz's education appointee in Minnesota. Another clip. Shout out to Emergent Perspective for posting this, putting it on my radar. Yes, John, I had the same thought. Just made another one of those libertarian connections right there. Yes, libertarians, come get your guy. You want to protest all you... Oh, he's not... we're different. Nope, we're different. No, we're not... No, yeah. This is how political coalitions work. If you're fundamentally anti-state, you are aligned with this guy, whether you want to be or not. You don't get to choose your bedfellows here. You're the best libertarian.
Former President Obama was back out last night. This is the first time since he was in Pittsburgh and invoked the potential of sexism in his appeal to black men to support the vice president, Angela. Should there be a course correction because there was so much backlash to that framework? Was it a mistake for the former president to say what he did or to say it publicly? What was your assessment of what we heard from former President Obama?
I think that it's wonderful that President Obama is out hitting the trail for democracy, frankly. And what I think is a mistake is to let white folks escape the accountability that they must face for not showing up to save democracy themselves. Like, they want to get mad at presidential candidates, right, when they don't wear a flag lapel pin or they don't see you pledging allegiance to the flag. That's what they want to get upset about. Now, the face of patriotism to them looks like trying to tear down the Capitol in a terrorist attack on January 6, 2021. So the responsibility of saving democracy should be on the largest demographic in this country. That is white men, white women. I don't want to see a women's march with pussy hats come January if something doesn't go right. What I want to see is for them to march themselves to the polls, including today. We are in Detroit, Michigan for an early vote rally. In Michigan, early voting starts next Saturday, which is my birthday, Victor.
Happy birthday.
But today in Detroit, it starts today. There's a big event at Pistons Land. We will be adjacent to that event, talking to folks, Detroit voters, about what they want to hear, about the agendas that matter to them, about the economy, about healthcare, about ensuring that democracy is preserved, even if it's not perfect. We're doing our part. It's time for white folks to turn their ire and their attention to each other to ensure they also do their part.
I said these people are too dumb to recognize their rhetoric as effectively a declaration of war. If they had any clue what sorts of things they were bringing to life, they'd never let themselves be seen in public again. And I know some people may disagree with that. No, they're doing it. They know exactly what they're doing. These are stupid people. Don't grant them more power and agency than they are due. These are stupid people who haven't the faintest clue what they're invoking. This is a circular firing squad within the regime. If the whole plan is foment a race war to cement our power forever, you know you're dealing with retarded people. Because she says it herself in this: the largest demographic in the country is white people, because it's a white country. The largest demographic, and you're going to demand something from them? It's one thing if you're cloaking it in like, this is your duty to be a good, moral, ethical, upstanding person. But the very nature of speaking in race war terms like this is that you can no longer cloak it in simple, happy academic language. The reason they're escalating the rhetoric is because they recognize the culture is slipping away from them. Remember Elon yesterday posting that the ADL needs to stop their anti-white racism. Elon is speaking for a huge swath of the population when he says that. Like Zachary Levi said, most people are just afraid to say something. But as it becomes normalized to talk about it, people become emboldened. Just like when it became normal to like Creed, lots of people came out of the radar, came out onto the scene. Oh yeah, I like Creed. These sorts of cultural trends happen really quickly. And she says here, toward the end, she's like, I don't want to see any pussy hat marches. We're not going to be working with you. Nuh-uh. if you don't vote the way we want. You have to accept all of this other bullshit that you don't want to put up with anymore. And if you don't, then we're going to abandon you. All right, abandon yourself into a corner. Related to this. So if you recognize that these are stupid people, this woman, she's got, I think there was a reply on here. Yeah, Jason said, straightened hair, speaking English, albeit poorly, and not Swahili, wearing white fashion, educated in white schools, using ideologies created by whites, and trying to defend a political system invented by whites on a TV network invented and owned by whites, and given the freedom to be openly hostile to whites by whites. The level of contradictory irony here makes bigots of us all just by noticing them. This woman is not remotely equipped to fight a race war. She doesn't have the faintest clue what a race war is. It's catastrophic to her when Starbucks prices go up. That's considered traumatic to her. Her expectation is somebody else will fight my war for me. But the hired guns are only going to work for the people most positioned to win, who project the most power, who have the most cultural cachet. They're mercenaries by definition. And it's well documented that these mercenaries were on a leash. So she thinks someone else is going to go fight this war for her. What happens when suddenly she doesn't have any foot soldiers anymore? Or the foot soldiers aren't interested in working with her? Because there's a new boss in town. This is what it looks like when they're losing. That doesn't mean don't take them seriously. It means don't grant them power that they don't have. So there was this situation where this gigantic black chick attacked this police officer and stabbed him in the face multiple times. And it took him forever. He took multiple slashes before he finally just shot her. Because you know what was going through his mind. He's an Asian guy. There's a gigantic 6'5" black woman chimping out and waving at him with a huge knife, slashing him in the face. And he's like, I got to make sure that she's actually the aggressor before I kill her. Orrin McIntyre said, quote, once we put body cams on cops, they'll reveal how racist and abusive police are. What body cams actually reveal. This one did some numbers. And Evan Loves Worf says this was racism and abuse. He had a gun and she didn't. She was clearly having a psychotic episode. People having psychotic episodes do not deserve to be murdered. This is a stupid person. This person has lived a cushy, privileged life. They've never encountered the world. They're not remotely equipped to set standards for anything. They've been granted undue power by derelict cultural leaders. Revenant nailed it perfectly. He said, once you start viewing leftists the same as mentally handicapped children, they become a lot less infuriating and a lot more ridiculous. This is the way to think about them. There's other two videos I showed you of this Tim Walz' education appointee. This is a mentally handicapped child. This chick here, I didn't hear anything from her, but she's on this panel, so she's going to get guilt by association. These are mentally handicapped children. They're only a threat to the extent that they're given, like the kid running around, the toddler running around the backyard with a chainsaw. You don't get mad at the kid. You're like, okay, we need to contain you. We need to figure out how to get this chainsaw away from you and contain you. They're a problem to be managed rather than people to be argued with as though they have a legitimate perspective. You can't even grant them the premise of their argumentation because they're just LARPing. They're embodying characters that they've seen on TV shows. They don't have the faintest clue what they're talking about. This is the theater kid occupied government. It's the toddler with the chainsaw. Toddler has no idea what they're doing with the chainsaw. It just goes vroom, and that's really cool. The same with these people. I wanted to get this tweet in here because I posted this last week, and it's something I've been thinking about for a while. I'd played this clip of
Hey, Barack Obama, as a black man, this must be sad, man.
all these black guys.
Fuck you. Fuck Kamala Harris, and fuck the Democratic Party.
So all these guys that are pissed off with Obama. And I said, I've seen a lot of our guys complain about the Trump campaign targeting and amplifying his black supporters. They've pointed out rightly that his true base is white Americans and that appealing to them has a vastly higher potential payoff. But, ironically, a large plurality, at least, of white Americans see black support of their preferred candidate as one of the most appealing traits possible. You could call it a pass, perhaps. Pandering to blacks is appealing to white Americans in general. Black Americans don't need to vote for him in especially large numbers for their support to make a potentially significant difference. And for the votes don't matter, friends, sure, perhaps they don't. But the act of voting does, and the records of voting do. This is the case especially for Trump, given the character he's been developed into. Him being suddenly normalized is a huge frame breaker for a lot of people. Suddenly finding him acceptable normalizes a hell of a lot of other things in short order. Some of those other things are good, very good even. Some are bad. The next decade plus will bring a lot of both. We're being given a reprieve. We must use this. And this is another teaser for the conversation that Jason and I will have about Trump being installed. So you can recognize that democracy is a gay system, but still understand that it has some function to it, and that function is playing out. And just simply identifying yourself as a victim of it and just crying out in pain doesn't get you anything, except contempt and no respect. People don't like victims that just lay around and cry in pain. They're not going to follow people like that. So you can recognize that democracy is fake and gay, but that it also is real. And that if you want to take cultural capital, if you want to make inroads into the world, you have to play the game. And if you're going to play the game, you might as well play the game in a winning way. Relatedly, I lined these up fairly well today. Another long post here from Devin Erickson. We did the one from him talking to Mike Nellis, the Kamala campaign guy, the other day. Here's another one. So Travis Hellwig, who's some shit lib, TV writer, co-creator of Edith, starring Rosamund Pike, former head writer for Crooked Media and Adam Ruins, creative at Won't Pack Down. He says, if Kamala loses, which is very possible, there needs to be a real discussion about how Democrats speak to and reach young men. This is a vibe shift. Just a couple of years ago, and for like at least a decade before that, it was fashionable. Like tweeting something like this would get a guy thrown out of the tribe. Young men are not to be pandered to. How dare you suggest that young men might have valid needs or concerns, or that we actually need to figure out how to connect with them? They need to sit down and listen when a black woman's talking. There are very few straight men under 40 in the Democratic consultant class. Very few straight men under 40 in the Democratic consultant class. You don't say. I couldn't tell. So when ads try to reach young men, they come off deeply inauthentic. A flash of self-awareness. We take for granted that young people will always be left. They take it for granted. Who else takes that for granted? If you're taking for granted the fact that young people will always be left, then here are your political cohort. But if the young male vote ends up even close to what some polling is saying, it will be years of electoral disaster for Democrats. Ding, ding, ding. These voters are reachable, but we struggle to talk to them in a way that isn't annoying. To be clear, I'm not saying we need to worry about women less or change any positions. Got to get the caveats in there. No. Just because I'm talking about this group doesn't mean that everything doesn't apply to every single group. Please don't hurt me. I'm saying the polling around young men is concerning, and if it turns out to be true, we need to have a discussion about how condescending we are coming off to a huge part of the electorate, he said condescendingly. Devin Erickson, narrator. They did, in fact, need to change their positions. All of them. The core disconnect here is that leftists... Now, well, let me just read this. And make no mistake, Democrats are now leftists, not liberals. Elon Musk is a liberal. RFK Jr. is a liberal. Donald Trump is a liberal. Liberals who have joined the Republican Party by now and those who haven't aren't liberals. Liberals have joined the Republican Party by now and those who haven't aren't liberals. I probably wouldn't parse the distance between liberal and leftist as much as he is, but there is a point here. I think I wouldn't call them liberals because of the way that they're playing footsie with explicitly anti-liberal things. They're post-liberal probably, but this sort of cladistic breakdowns get kind of tiresome and you could talk about it forever. The point remains here that there is a difference between this guy. Awesome image, by the way. There's a difference between Travis Hellwig and Elon Musk. That's substantial. You can't paint with too broad of a brush where you just say, oh, well, they're all, if they're a lib, they're a lefty, they're a lefty, they're a lib, these are all the same thing. Like, on a certain level of analysis, yeah, you can lump them all in together. They exist on a continuum. But you shouldn't be doing your analysis at only a certain level of resolution. You also have to zoom in and you have to start noticing the differences because sometimes those differences are substantive, and clearly in this case they are. The core disconnect here is that leftists talk to everyone as if we were 5 years old and stupid. Travis Hellwig, like Mike Nellis before him, like Harris's entire campaign staff, are unable to conceive of the idea that young white men hate leftist policies, and any condescension in the delivery isn't the basic problem, it's just an additional insult. The reason that leftists are unable to understand this is how the left approaches economic and social policy. Leftists have a hunter-gatherer mentality. Hunter-gatherers don't create the things they consume. They find them, they capture them, and they divide them up amongst the tribe. This is how leftists look at value in the modern economy. Some store of value exists, they see it, they focus on capturing it, then dividing up amongst their constituents according to whatever they mean at the moment by this nebulous word fair. But that isn't how value works in the modern society and hasn't been since the agricultural revolution ended the Paleolithic era. This is why rightists approach the economy with a herdsman-farmer mentality. This here that you've heard Jason talk about the difference between a primal society and a civilized society, the primal mindset and the civilizational grindset. This is what he's differentiating here. Herdsmen and farmers do work to create the things they consume. They have breeding stock and seeds, and they must take care of them, invest in them so that they can grow. This is how rightists look at value in the modern economy. Some store of value exists because someone created and grew it, therefore they control it. If it is left in their hands, it will continue to make more value, some of which will reach others in exchange for their work. The left's failure with white men is not about messaging at all. The messaging is just a side effect. The left's failure with white men is fundamental to its hunter-gatherer mentality. You see, white men are the only net taxpayers. Why? Because white men create the vast majority of the value in the first world Western economy. And here's where I'd say there's a little bit of like boomer Gen X to Devin. I suspect he's Gen X. I can't remember if he said so or not, but he writes and thinks like a Gen X person, even if he's like an older millennial. So like the differentiating between the liberal and leftist, I could nitpick that. The focusing on taxpayer as a thing, there's a little kind of, it's boomerish. But you could just think here of taxpayer as what he's saying here. The net taxpayer is the person who generates net value, net positive value to society. And the taxes are a proxy of that. Why? Well, you're expecting me to say something racist here, which I'd be perfectly willing and unafraid to do. But the truth is, it doesn't matter why white men create most of the value. Could be because of some Aryan Nordic superiority thing straight out of Axis propaganda. Could be cultural. Could be coincidence based on initial conditions. Could be because their ancestors grabbed all the stuff and that somehow, don't ask how, is in effect even today. Also, don't ask about all the historically verifiable stuff grabbing that non-whites did. Could be because Jared Diamond was right all along and the only domesticable species on the planet just gravitate to them, except unicorns, which are drawn to white women, so white men exterminated them all in a jealous rage. We don't know, and we don't have to know because it doesn't matter. Empirically, we know that white men are the only net taxpayers. That's all we need to know to understand this. And I think he's saying a lot here to emphasize that it doesn't necessarily have to just be the racist thing. I mean, it could just be the racist thing. But he's also right that it could be any of these other things. Like we could debate about why it is, but that's secondary to just recognizing that it is a fact. It's a fact, and we should act as if it's a fact, and then you can do your debate about why it's a fact. When leftists approach the economy with a hunter-gatherer mentality, the value they are finding belongs to white men because it was created by white men, and the leftists capture it and redistribute it. Imagine, if you will, a Paleolithic hunter-gatherer tribe wandering the world and coming across a Neolithic village surrounded by herds of domestic cattle. Well, they're hunters. They know what to do with wild cattle, and the idea of domestic cattle hasn't even occurred to them. So they spear a bunch of them and cook themselves a feast. And when angry Neolithic herdsmen armed with spears show up to punish the thieves, they're confused. Why are these guys so angry? There's plenty of meat for us to redistribute, and we offered them a fair share. The hunter-gatherers have no conception of what it took to raise that herd, of the effort that went into it. They have no conception that if they continue to treat that herd like a free resource to extract meat from without putting work into, then the herd will die out and everyone will starve. Hunter-gatherers will always eat the seed corn because they don't understand the concept of farming. So when leftists say things like Kamala Harris could offer white men free gas and bacon, and they're so fanatical they'd still vote for Trump, they're telling on themselves. White men just get angry when you offer the government free stuff. Government free stuff, because they know they are the only ones paying into the free stuff system. They know that the more free bacon the government hands out, the more it will have to take from them. And this is where the left's insulting messaging toward white men comes in. It's necessary to the system. The big insult, the big lie that the left directs at white men is, you didn't build that. You didn't build what you have. You stole what you have. You don't deserve what you have, is the thief's first and last rationalization. The left must denigrate white men. It must paint them as pillagers and destroyers and rapists and beneficiaries of unearned, undeserved privilege. Because if it acknowledges that white men are mostly builders, then it will not have the excuse it needs to take what they built. So there is always the rationalization that the herdsmen just took the cattle from the wild, and the cattle breed by themselves, and the grass they ate just grew, so truly the herdsmen are nothing but hunter-gatherers themselves. In the modern era, it's Elon Musk didn't build any rockets, he just hired a bunch of engineers who did all the work. And you can make a pretty good case for these, but only if you ignore all the evidence. Because if the herdsmen added no value, then the wild herds would be as fruitful and abundant as the domesticated ones, and the hunter-gatherers would have no incentive to poach tame cattle from the herdsmen. And if reusable rockets could be made by any team of engineers for anyone with the money to hire them, then NASA would have reusable rockets, Boeing would have reusable rockets, and Arianespace, never heard of this one, and Lockheed Martin, and blah, 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 and anyone and everyone with 8 or 9 figures to invest. The left doesn't hate white men because they are white men. The left hates white men because they are the only net taxpayers. The hatred, the racism, the dehumanizing propaganda was invented for the purpose of robbery. If it were Polynesian women instead who built the majority of society's cool stuff, then it would be Polynesian privilege and female privilege that the media was unable to shut up about. It's all just hunter-gatherers raiding on the edges of civilization. Leftism is just a new way of conducting those raids by people who still don't understand where value comes from. So the left can never appeal to white men. Not ever. Unless white men become so permanently naive and stupid that they never realize they're being robbed. Or unless the left somehow manages to get other demographic groups to be net producers, which would be impossible for the left, even if the racists are 100% wrong, because you can't get someone to raise pigs when you're giving them free bacon. You guys are the lucky recipients of hearing some of the best long posts on Twitter. 2 of the best long posters today, Scorch Earth Policy and Devin Erickson. Shout out to those guys. Go give them a follow. There was a super chat up here, and I don't want to miss that. After reading that, I mean, everything that I've talked about today, the videos I've played with the soundtracks, and then a number of the topics we've read about, this stream is, as usual, 100% going to be demonetized immediately as soon as it's done. Any super chats you guys can send in are very much appreciated, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled, send some cash over to keep the lights on, keep us doing this. And $5 super chat from See You in the Camp. Thank you, sir. He says, notice her little grin at the end of that video. Duper's delight. Yes. Yeah, the retarded woman who was talking about holding white people accountable. Good luck with that, sis. All right. Let's see. Before we move on, let me tell you guys about our sponsor for today, Axios Fitness Coaching. I'm going to read the ad. I'll start adapting the ad copy a little more and entering in some of my own thoughts on it here. But I really like what he wrote as the principles of the company, how the company sees themselves, why they're operating, what their purpose is. This isn't just a way to make some money. This is actually a way to provide a really good product to help people improve their lives in a way they really need. And believe me, I've seen some of you guys, and I know that this is something that you need. So he said, the current moment we live in is one that prioritizes the inverse of whatever makes men strong, healthy, and capable. The quality of our food continues to decline. Plastics construct everything around us, including our balls. That's my addition there. And the virtues of beauty and strength are continuously denigrated by spiteful mutants. Spiteful mutants is such a good phrase. To sustain ourselves, we have to take a pathway of action that cultivates and revitalizes our spirit. Return to being builders of culture instead of consumers of a cheap, synthetic excuse for life. That pathway will require an adoption of physical discipline. And this is what Axios Fitness Coaching seeks to help bring about. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios offers standalone training programs as well as individual coaching options should your needs require a more specific approach. So if you just need something general, they've got the programs for you. If you want something tailored into you because maybe you've got a weird lifestyle or a particular injury or something that has kept you from either working out at all or working out or consuming the right nutrition as you should, they can work with you. Axios is best known for the Training Club, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to take action against the decay of modernity. This is how you fight back against the brain rot, by becoming a man. By joining the club, you get access to over 20 different programs that can be personally tailored to your strength levels, available equipment, and injury history. Customized, personalized service. By completing the intake survey, you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any of their other services. It's long past time we take our health back into our own hands. Without action, there is only degeneration. Now, if you want to take advantage of this opportunity, there's a couple of ways you can do it. Number one, you can go into the King Pill Discord, go to kingpill.com and sign up. And if you sign up at the Lord or the King level, one of the top 2 tiers, then you will get this: 5 free training templates. The push, pull, and legs, the DB only, hypertrophy specific, 5-day total S&C, calisthenics for the beginner, and daily mobility. If you put your email in here, you'll get this link if you join the King Pill Discord at the Lord or the King level. There is a fitness channel, and this link is pinned in there. Put your email in. You'll get an invite to the training app. So that's one way you can do it. That's what will get you the most for your time and your energy. Or if you just want to go through the intake survey and see if you'd be a good fit for the training club, then the link is in the description of this video. You just go down there. You'll see a link for Axios Fitness Coaching. Just click that and go fill out the intake survey. Filling out surveys is fun. Go do that. Maybe you'll learn a little something from it and can see if you can start getting yourself in better physical condition. A couple other super chats. We very much appreciate Axios. JD is an absolute Chad. Just looking at him makes you want to be better. So we appreciate their support. And I love the fact that he is approaching this as not just like, here, I'm going to provide you a fitness service, but I'm going to put you in a group of guys who are all going through the same program together, where you can get personalized care, and then you guys can start to form little secret societies. We're moving into an era of secret societies, and your network is going to define your future. So go plug yourself in, and you'll get more than just fitness coaching. You'll make maybe some friends for life. $5 super chat from Tiny Rick. He says, how much of a cut does YouTube take from this super chat? I believe 30%, something like that. So I end up, whatever the super chats are, I end up getting something like 60 or 70% of it. So if you don't want to give away that big of a chunk, then buy me a coffee is the way to go. Buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled. Link is also in the description. Appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat, man. And a $5 super chat from David H. Very much appreciate you guys. And my wife says, shout out to my lovely wife in the chat. She says, if supporting the show monetarily isn't your thing, like the show, share the show, follow the show, and interact with Matt's tweets. All free ways to support the movement. Absolutely. John says, coming from the wife, I feel so much more obligated to hit the like button. See? Look what you're doing, mama. You are yourself providing value to the show. It means a lot. The mafia takes 25%. Yeah, having to deal with the YouTube mafia. We are part of our little project that we're going to be launching here soon includes an app. So we were looking at different ways of monetizing it. And I'll give you a little inside baseball here. We're looking at different ways of monetizing it. And one of the things that we had to consider is that if you have an app, you can have your app hosted on the app stores. But if you have any links in the app, any payment links, I should say, then any of the revenue that comes through those links on the app, 30% of it goes to the app store. 30 frickin' percent. It's insane. It's the definition of a cartel. So for that reason, we are not going to have our payment links for the service that we're going to provide you guys. We're not going to have those on the app itself. To get the app, you'll have to find it. You'll have to hunt it down. We'll help you do that. Another $4.99 from Tiny Rick. He says, coffee next time. I don't use Twitter, but I like when you read it to me. Cheers. Well, that's good. This is the ideal astrolabian, is the non-Twitter user. You should go if you want to support your patrons, your true patrons. Then you should go get a subscription for Twitter. Just sign up. It's like $8 a month, I think. Just go do a subscription, let it rebill, and you're providing Twitter support, preventing them from having to be held by the balls by advertisers. Shekels for the shekel god. All right, let's continue here. Bloomberg tax. Donald Trump said he'd consider exempting police officers, firefighters, active duty military, and veterans from paying taxes. The Republican nominee's latest campaign trail idea to deliver tax breaks to key groups of supporters. Okay, and then the commentary I have on this is from one of the great posters, Aristophanes. Quote tweeting Watch a Guru, who says Donald Trump's tax plans could exempt 93 million Americans from income taxes. He says there's a good lesson to be had here on how patronage works. When you're the left and your base are poor blacks, petty criminals, government bureaucrats, and midwit pseudo-intellectuals in academia, you do the following. Give free shit to black people, like crypto equity for black men and forgiven PPP loans. Institute things like cash bail and restorative justice for violent crime. Make it virtually impossible to get fired from a government job, even if you're incompetent, often late, or unproductive. Create bullshit DEI majors that any idiot can get that give people bullshit DEI jobs that aren't productive and shouldn't exist. When you're on the right, patronage looks like lifting tax burdens from the sectors most filled with your supporters, because most of the time they are already productive and taxes are extracted from them to pay for the patronage of the left supporters. So you try to do a soft disclosure of removing income tax, starting with your supporters first, so that the guardrails keeping productive people from being even more productive are out of the way. The unproductive people were going to be losers no matter what sort of help was available. The left are fundamentally unproductive, led by a small spear tip of very wealthy, productive people. That spear tip squeezes the middle to buy the loyalty of the bottom. The fact that the right are fundamentally productive means that patronage looks different for them. And this is just one of many of these types of moves that they're making, that the campaign is making, offering patronage on various different levels in ways that are not just politically savvy and inclined to induce people to support them, but do the double purpose. Like the left, they have their policies that they present to get their people to support them. But being in that hunter-gatherer mindset, it's all about like redistributing an existing pie and figuring out how to penalize groups and move lines around within that existing pie. Whereas something like this, exempting 93 million Americans from income taxes, is massively growth-oriented. So it's pandering with patronage to productive people to induce them into productive behaviors, which is a positive feedback loop that can capitalize on itself really, really quickly, especially when paired with all the other different pro-American manufacturing, pro-American industry, pro-energy, all these different policies being implemented is going to it has the potential for massive growth in a very, very short period of time. You could call it a redux of the Roaring 20s. It's interesting that there's kind of a century cycle to that. We are on the cusp of a new Roaring 20s, and the demand for it is huge and growing. This is why the spiteful mutants are going to be sidelined. They're going to be sidelined because people are greedy. And the greedy people are beginning to see the pathway being laid forward for them. And the incentives are lining up so that the things that they need to do to massively maximize their own wealth have a trickle-down effect to the rest of us. So if we start acting like the rich people, even if we aren't rich, we can become rich. And this works financially, it works socially, it works culturally, it works on every level. Like if you start acting, the tax code as it is set up right now is for rich people. So if you begin living the way that the rich people do, and I'm not talking about the profligate ways, I'm talking about the way they built their wealth. If you start having children, owning businesses, doing the things that exempt you from portions of the tax code, then you can become rich. Like this is like by definition. Because the tax code is set up to support rich people. So you plug yourself into the tax code in the right way. It's not as simple as just plug yourself into the tax code, but that's a key part of it. You begin LARPing as the rich guy and you become rich. And on the flip side, this could not be more, you couldn't get a better object lesson of exactly where the culture has been, what it has degenerated to, and why it's going away. Canadian men peacefully enjoying life and building Rock Island. Listen to this journalist try to spoil it.
A group of men are building an island by gathering and stacking rocks in the middle of the Grand River in Cambridge. The activity has spurred reactions by local business owners in the community. When Karen Thomas, owner of LA Frank Restaurant, reached out to the city of Cambridge...
Karen! The Pajit lady telling the story about Karen complaining about white guys building shit.
Informing them about the activity, she said she was told several other business owners also had concerns about the same.
This is like a microcosm of Elon Musk's situation. Make this rock island that they're building, this is like a 50-story skyscraper that gets launched into the air and then they catch it on chopsticks.
The men started building the island about 3 weeks ago with only a few rocks, and the structure has now grown. A group of men take turns and go into the water one by one or in pairs to build the island, Thomas added. Waterloo Regional Police Service said their community engagement unit is working with Grand River Conservation Authority to determine the next steps. Prabnoor Kaur for the Cambridge Times. A group of men are...
That's a weird Canadian accent. Yeah, that's ask any Canadian. That's becoming the default Canadian accent, which is why they need to just be brought under our wing. See you in the camp with a $10 super chat. Thank you, man. He says something under discussed. The elite Democrats required to cheat the election likely aren't super pumped to make a midwit like Carmelo Harris, their leader, Carmelo Harris. Now I'm imagining Carmelo Anthony with Kamala Harris's face and hair, like dunking. Everything just broke. Nobody wants to take orders from a toddler. Right. Like this is just one of many massive missteps that they've made. Like creating the race war, thinking that this is going to be a way for them to entrench their power, and it's just broken up their coalition. All the lawfare. Each move that they've made to try to sustain their coalition has had the effect of breaking it. So like going after Trump or going after Elon's pay package. Well, this is like pandering to the base, pandering to the in-group. And all it does is just drive CEOs out of Delaware and into the MAGA camp. There's so many examples of this that every time they try to because they've embedded themselves in this death cult, anything they try to do to sustain the death cult just has the result of killing the death cult. The death cult killing itself. All right. Thank you for the super chat, man. Let's move this on forward. I read you guys this thread from Jay Ford yesterday talking about his experience down in North Carolina where he's working on logistics down there. And he sent me another one. He says, Libtard alert. Privy to a conversation between two managers discussing relief efforts. A men's Christian ministry showed up to the town and has been providing a huge amount of relief efforts, from search and rescue to recovery to root cleaning to cleanup to rebuilding. This group has been key to executing tasks that you would assume FEMA and Red Cross would take care of. They've cleared hundreds of roads, cut up thousands of trees, supplied and saved countless families with stuff they need to survive the winter. On their sign-up waiver and release form, they have a mission statement that says to the effect of, "We are Christians, we represent Christ. If you're representing us, you're representing Christ, and I think it's supposed to be, we expect you to act like it." Many of them are armed. They're going into dangerous locations, makes sense. But because of all these things, they are, quote, a right-wing Christian nationalist militia. Excuse me? Is your brain broken? Are you stupid? These people are helping your community significantly more than the fag that cried about them. They aren't cooking meals for other volunteers. They're courageously doing things that you're too old, frail, or faggish to do. The slightest existence of competency frightens these people when it isn't attached to global homo values. The slightest whiff of order will send these people in a panic, right in the middle of hurricane relief. These people need to be ignored, stepped over, and disenfranchised. At the slightest hint that normalcy will return, they got their trash service back this week, they go bananas. If this men's group leaves the area, I'm pulling out and going to a location that needs competent men. Do not bargain with these people. This is more evidence of this exact thing that I was just talking about back here, the thread from Revenant. Once you start viewing leftists the same as mentally handicapped children, they become a lot less infuriating and a lot more ridiculous. And a lot less threatening. They have the capacity, through sheer ignorance and malevolence, to affect a lot of evil. But only to the extent that it becomes evident these are just self-terminating bloodlines. Physically and ideologically. I quote tweeted this video yesterday of all of these guys, with the Harris campaign, or it was like a Harris campaign production or one of its surrogates, showing all of these guys bragging about how easy it was to get their vasectomy. And I'm just like, man, the spiteful mutant class is self-terminating. And you're blackpilling? They're removing themselves from the gene pool. That's what these people are doing. When strong, organized Christian men show up to work for you and you push them away, you reject them, you're just signing the death warrant for your civilization. You're signing the death warrant for your community. Your community will not survive without strong Christian white men serving as the foundation for it. It's the greatest civilizing force in the world. Once our guys put their mind to building something, that thing is going to get built. And it's going to dominate and it's going to last. The way to look at these people is as lesser than. These are primal people. They can't even exist in a civilization. A civilization is built for them and they just assume that it sprouted out of the ground organically. That a civilization just grows like a tree. But when you chop that tree down, it's gone. And if you don't know how to grow trees, well, you're screwed. These people are not a threat to anything but themselves. Remove yourself from their blast orbit and let them detonate. And odds are very good that when suddenly the thing that held their society is gone, they're going to be desperate beggars groveling on the ground for anybody who will look out for them. If you want to be a part of a group that is strong, white, Christian men, might I recommend to you the Old Glory Club. Shout out to Paul Suda for spontaneously making this original edit. It is a banger. It's going to absolutely demonetize the stream, and I don't care. It's already demonetized, and you guys are very generous with the super chats. So we're going to watch this.
I know that there are a lot of young men who are going to be listening to this, and young men who have been waiting for the call to adventure. in order to go out and do something great. And my only question for those men is, are you fucking deaf? Right now, in your country, your countrymen are in deep need. It's a dangerous area. It's an area where you can go to see the greatest that humanity has to offer, putting their skills and their time and their expertise to use in pursuit of a unifying goal. If there were ever an adventure that you could get to, it's this. What you do is what you believe, and what you spend your time on is what you value most. And for all of you young men who are looking to get involved in something like this, to have an adventure, to find the dragon's treasure at the end of the story, which is an allegory for wisdom, and an allegory for skills, and for the relationships that you're going to make while you're standing side by side with your fellow man, doing something worthy and noble, this is it. These things don't come around very often, and you're going to need the experience. So put your schooling on hold, secure what you can, and go spend some time doing some real good in a dangerous environment. If you need contacts down there, the OGC's got them. But if you don't, and you hear this, you are never again allowed to say anything like young men can't find adventure in the modern world.
If that doesn't get you frickin' jacked, you don't have a soul. Go join the Old Glory Club. TheOldGloryClub.com. Yes, I'd love to watch it again, but we must move forward. Now, before I read this excellent piece by Charlie on an accident of birth, I got to let you guys know about this. I mentioned it yesterday on the show that we're looking for creatives. We're calling the creatives. The beacons of Gondor are lit, calling all creatives, including those aspiring. We need your help. We're looking for all levels of technical proficiency, from experienced multimedia producer all the way down to I have spare time and I'm willing to learn. If you've got the chops to make some great audio bits, we'll provide the audience for you. This is your audition. We want to recruit as many of our guys for this as we can. Now, to be clear, we are the ultimate determiners of what constitutes good. You could think of this as kind of like a golden ticket. You're going to buy the chocolate, and it might have a golden ticket in it. It might not. You might have to try again. We're hoping to give you guys an outlet for including some of your content, honing your own content creation chops, and make some good stuff to entertain people. Continue to be at the pinnacle of creating great art to move the culture. So we're going to give you an opportunity here to contribute stuff. So first, listen to the attached clip for inspiration. This is a big moment. This is the clip that was playing earlier when I freaked out and there was something playing in my head. And it was really funny because we're watching these awesome produced skit style videos, and all of a sudden this thing starts playing, and I knew that I was going to be making this call out later in the show because I told you guys yesterday that I'd be telling you about this. So this is a big moment where we're dropping a major tease of just a little slice of what's coming. This is the inspiration for those of you who are creatives. A couple of you guys saw this and you already sent some stuff to me, and it is top tier. It is so good. I can't wait to hear what else you guys have out here. But here is a little sampling for inspiration of what sort of thing we're looking for.
Imagine you're standing at the shore, looking out at the vast ocean. No matter where you are in the world, the horizon always appears perfectly flat and rises to your eye level, whether you're at sea level or at a high altitude. This constant flat horizon challenges the notion of a curved surface. And much of the evidence for a spherical Earth comes from space agencies like NASA, which have been shown many times to be manipulating images and data. I mean, Joe, they don't have a great track record.
No, they don't. Jamie, pull up NASA chorizo hoax. Have you seen this?
Who hasn't? So, yeah, these points, when taken together, provide a pretty compelling case for re-examining the shape of our world and considering the possibility that the Earth is indeed flat.
Gentlemen, are you ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery? Join us at the Inner Harmony Retreat, a unique masculinity retreat where you'll find your true inner man and get in touch with your sensitive side. Connect with like-minded men as we explore the depths of our emotions, embracing vulnerability and compassion. Through guided meditation, heartfelt sharing circles, and intimate bonding exercises, you'll discover a softer, more authentic version of yourself.
I never knew how freeing it could be to fully let my deep inner man out. With the warm, gentle, but strong embrace of some of the other larger men here, I was able to discover a new sense of boyishness I never knew was in me.
So, come join us for a weekend of warmth, understanding, and gentle hugs. Rediscover the joy of being tender and open-hearted with other men on the same path. Inner Harmony Retreat, where masculinity meets sensitivity. Find your true self. Sign up today.
Yes, that is David Goggins. You didn't know we had the connections that we do. You might have also recognized the voice of Neil deGrasse Tyson. So that's your inspiration. Here's the prompts. Choose from... Stop playing. Choose from these 4 prompts. An advertisement for a physiognomy surgery service. An advertisement for ball sunning shorts. A skit of a Big Brother agent reminding you to hit your scroll quota for the day. A David Attenborough nature documentary voiceover describing urbanite mating dances. Let your creative juices flow and then send your submissions over to me at realkingpilled@gmail.com. So this is our call out for those of you who want to engage in a little bit of fun, honing your content creation skills, experimenting with some of the technologies that are at our disposal for taking over the right-wing entertainment space. Then this is your chance. realkingpilled@gmail.com. We'd love to see what sort of things you produce. And we're very, very, very picky about it has to hit just right. So make your audition. See if you can hit that sweet spot, and we'd love to hear from you. All right. Your existence is no accident. Our very own Charlemagne gives our readers a rallying cry about why we should not settle for a meaningless identity, but rather to claim what is rightfully ours. Read An Accident of Birth now. They actually dropped a Substack link on Twitter. Oh, actually, it's not Substack. They're clever. Substack forward.xyz. I wonder if that gets beyond the... Because Substack is notoriously deboosted by Twitter. So let's read this. An Accident of Birth. We won't let them undermine our confidence in our own heritage. The single overriding political issue in the United States is immigration, but to state it so dryly fails to give the issue its due. The issue of immigration is not one of policy, but of identity. Identity underlies every major problem in the United States today. What does it mean to be an American? Here at the Old Glory Club, we use the term Heritage American, meaning that your identity as an American descends to you from previous generations. Some people will try to pry open the obvious infinite regression by trying to root out the first cause of Americans. Was it the Mayflower Compact? The Declaration of Independence? When did Romans first become Romans? It doesn't matter. Americans, much as the Romans, have inherited a clear identity from those who pioneered it before us. Then they will try to argue that your being an American is simply an accident of your birth. Suddenly, the rational non-believer will snap a metaphysics into existence, as though there were a repository of souls somewhere out of which human beings are randomly pulled and instantiated into a body. It's just an accident of birth that you are an American, they will tell you. It's not an accident. Everything about you was determined by the conscious decisions made to create you exactly as you are. Previous generations of Americans struggled against the might of raw nature with sinew and bone to form the country which you now inhabit by the grace of God. Likewise, Haitians were formed through the demonic activities and compacts that previous generations made. There is nothing accidental about the broad strokes of history for either of these peoples, and they are exactly what they are supposed to be. Until the United States federal government decided to change that. Accidents of birth are not only used to undermine Americans' confidence in our own heritage and destroy our beloved country, but are also inflicted upon our cousins in the United Kingdom. The recently elected Labour government promised to abolish the 92 seats in the House of Lords reserved for hereditary peers. This is not an opening salvo, but a finisher, as in 1999 the right of all hereditary peers was revoked, leaving only the 92 peerages remaining as a compromise. A lord is not born by accident. Aristocrats are created on purpose, usually by a long line of previous aristocrats trained in precisely the same way for centuries. There is nothing accidental about a lordship. In America, we have no titles, but we did once have aristocrats, as is commonly understood to be men of the Old South, such as Robert E. Lee. The melting down of his statue is likewise part of a long war against excellence. What can men do against such reckless hate? A motto of the Old Glory Club is American excellence. We also have a long-standing term for the process that is underway, biological Leninism. This bio-Leninism is the implementation of Leninism at the biological level by empowering the worst performers, genetically speaking. Full-spectrum excellence is the only answer to bio-Leninism, awaiting the return of the king. As Moldbug is often quoted, you must become worthy. Not to lead, but to be led by a great man of history. The return of the king is not a procedural outcome that can be manipulated. It is a matter of providence when he will return, and we can only prepare ourselves for the blessings of providence. Go subscribe to the Old Glory Club. Go join theoldgloryclub.com. And shout out to Charlemagne. That's a banger. Guys, look at this. Our guy, I am yes, you are no, who he's gotten in trouble for signal boosting in the past, posted this, and Elon responded, "This is why." Do you think that the South African understands what might be happening here? Rallying for the cause of Daniel Penny. This one broke containment a little bit. Shout out to Wit. He's going on a heater right now. Elon, that is. Wit's always on a heater. He was born on a heater. White South African, richest man in the world, retweeting pro-white accounts. I don't see no black pills here. He's hiding here somewhere. Absolutely, there's no question. Elon's in here hiding. This guy here said, don't underestimate the power of the leftist state, with this video of Kamala Harris cackling as she'd suggest the U.S. government is looking into Elon Musk for allowing a person every day until Election Day to earn $1 million for signing America PAC's petition to support the Constitution. I dare them. I absolutely dare them to go after him for that. You think he hasn't thought about that? You think the dude's giving away like $20 million. You think he hasn't thought about it? If I was going to bet on a war between Elon Musk and the federal government, with recognizing Elon Musk's status as the figurehead of a broad coalition, yeah, I'm not betting on the bio-Leninist coalition. I said, don't overestimate it either. And another escalation in the rhetoric. Elon says, this is war. He actually said, this is war. Exclusive documents. Working with Matt Taibbi, we report on CCD Hate documents, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, showing the Labour Party's political front's objective is, quote, kill Musk's Twitter through advertising focus, meaning harasses advertisers. See internal documents provided by a whistleblower. The Internal Center for Countering Digital Hate document shows their annual objective is kill Musk's Twitter. This is their internal monthly planner. The goal is to also trigger regulatory action, although they are a tax-exempt nonprofit. kill Musk's Twitter, advertising focus, trigger EU and UK regulatory action, progress toward change in USA and support for Star. U.S. policy engagement set up meetings with Klobuchar's team to seek a quota press release endorsement. Our meeting with their team is on Tuesday. CCDH held a private conference with a slew of liberal groups organizing against Musk, including Biden White House, Congressman Adam Schiff's office, Biden-Harris State Department officials, Canadian MP Peter Julian, and Media Matters for America. Here's all the data here. Center for Countering Digital Hate gets a lot of money from Hollywood. Staff say that one of the donors is singer Selena Gomez, a client of Aline Kashishian. I'm sure that Selena Gomez is deeply read in on everything that's going on. So here's the document, Substack proxy.glitch.me. So yeah, people are mastering the workaround for Substack articles or Substack links being deboosted on Twitter. I'm not going to read the whole thing here because we're already past the 2-hour mark, but the main thing here is Elon. This is war. Show him your war face, Elon. So you recognize this Evan Loves Wharf guy again. This description of Elon's very first all-hands meeting with the Twitter staff is insane. They all thought he was a moron after. This is great. Just imagine this. Imagine all of the rubes who are working at Twitter, all the Twitter employees, all the email jobs, all the pandered, shallow millennial white chicks, having this sit down with Elon. Leslie Berland, Twitter's chief marketing officer, eased Musk into the Q&A with a softball. Why do you love Twitter? She asked. Well, let's see. I find I learn a lot from what I read on Twitter and what I see in the pictures, videos, text, and memes that people create, Musk said. I also find it's a great way to get a message out over the phone. When I want to say something and make an announcement, I think Twitter's the best way to do that. He continued to ramble, joking that some people use their hair to express themselves. I use Twitter. Employees were growing concerned. I actually turned to a stranger in the comments and said, "What is happening right now?" One employee recalls. Wasn't this guy supposed to be a genius? Randall Lynn thought people were overreacting. With Elon, you kind of know what you're going to get, he says. This is like a real-life bell curve meme. Berland asked Musk how Twitter employees could earn his trust and how he planned to earn theirs in return. Musk demurred. It's like if somebody is getting useful things done, then that's great, he said vaguely. But if they're not getting useful things done, then I'm like, okay, why are they at the company? Agrawal might have hoped this meeting would comfort Twitter workers, but Musk seemed to have no interest in doing that. Yeah, because he was about to fire all of them. Only in these people's fake little imaginary world do they think that there's some sort of benefit to having Musk come in and meet with all the employees and have them all feel validated and have him validate them and then, oh yeah, he's great. Oh, I feel so much more comforted now. Their job is to work, and he's the boss. What do you think about Twitter? I think I'm taking it from you, bitch. Berland's last question was whether Musk planned to take the title of CEO. Musk responded that he didn't get hung up on titles. His role at Tesla was Techno King, as well as CEO, and his chief financial officer was called the Master of Coin, in addition to being the CFO. It would be so much fun to work in one of these companies. Then he laid out what he called his unifying philosophy. As far as employees could tell, it had nothing to do with Twitter. We should take the set of actions most likely to extend the scope, scale, and lifespan of consciousness as we know it, he said. What sort of actions improve things at a civilizational level and improve the probable lifespan of civilization? Civilization will come to an end at some point, but let's try to make it last as long as possible. And it would be great to understand more about the nature of the universe, why we're here, meaning of life, where things going, where we come from. Can we travel to other star systems and see if there are alien civilizations? There might be a whole bunch of long-dead one-planet civilizations out there that existed 500 million years ago. Think about the span of human civilization from the advent of the first writing. It's only about 5,000 years. These people aren't remotely equipped to even hear this. And this is part of why Elon was like, yeah, I don't care. I'll talk about the thing I'm interested in, and if it doesn't connect with you, whatever. Like a bunch of rubes, a bunch of NPCs, they can't even possibly think this way. Many employees were stunned. This is someone who is either quite stupid or hasn't given this much thought, a former engineer said. But either way, he is not taking this seriously, and he holds the company and the product and us, the employees, in contempt. He's not sniffing my farts. I like the smell of my farts. I like to sniff my farts. He's not sniffing them. He doesn't appreciate this company. Another engineer manager left the meeting and told his team that if they ever ran a meeting like that, they'd be fired. He did not land the plane, a former executive noted dryly. This reminds me of the Bloomberg interview that Trump did, where he called him Gavin Newsom, and the Micklethwaite, whatever his name was like, his name is Newsom. If any of the other CEOs out here in the audience were to speak about a rival executive in that way, then they would be sacked. What makes you think you get to talk that way? And Trump's like, yeah, no one's ever been attacked like I am. I'm better than them. Deal with it. Yeah, I get to do it. They don't. Suck on that. This is the same thing. If they ran a meeting like that, they'd be fired. Yeah, because their job isn't to run meetings like that. That's Elon's job. It's really funny to me the way that all of these really mediocre people just can't fit into their worldview. Someone like Elon, that he could be goofy and brilliant and not give a shit what people think about him. It just breaks their brain. These wimpy little managerialists who just think the whole world has to fit into their little email job. And they somehow have convinced themselves that the dude who is single-handedly redefining American innovation is an idiot. And he also spends hours gaming and streaming on Twitter his gaming. The dude has a legendary life. Which is an interesting segue to this story. Saw this last night. Tim Pool said that he's going to do an episode of Timcast IRL. And said this might be the very last one. He says he's stopping his show. Apparently none of his 30 employees are capable of running the tech or managing his studio. But instead of cleaning house of incompetent employees, he does a 2-hour woe is me stream in an attempt to gain sympathy.
We had our like, I don't know, 12th studio failure this morning.
The new one.
Yeah, the new studio failed. And, you know, my attitude with that is kind of just like,
I'm going to try to make it through here without getting this this pulled since he's streaming this on YouTube. A lot of the comments that I was seeing from people, like here, for example, I should have pulled this up before, but I didn't plan on it. I'll do it now. Going to the comments on the stream that he did, they were univocal. They were not impressed with what he was talking about. Let's share this tab. Stop hiring friends and start hiring qualified professionals. Oh, for fuck's sake, fire the lazy turds, fix the technical issues, and keep the damn show going. Ending the show 2 weeks out from the election is just stupid. Raymond wants more responsibility. Tim, I can't find anyone who wants the responsibility. So let me get this straight. You failed to have a dedicated IT worker or manager. You failed to have a dedicated facilities manager or worker. Failed to just have even an actual manager. Bro, this is on you as an owner. You want people you can trust to show up and do their job? Hire the InfoWars crew. They're all out of jobs and have the technical and managerial know-how. Reach out to Daily Wire or literally hundreds of your contacts. You're saying there's a managerial crisis, yet you yourself aren't being very managerial. You're just throwing a fit and disrespecting your crew on a live podcast. Now, honestly, like, I could go both ways on this. I wouldn't do a show like this. Well, okay, let me say this. I saw a lot of people were like, oh, how does he have 30 employees to run a podcast? No, I could genuinely get why he has 30 employees. I think you could probably do with far less than that, but I can understand how you could wind up with 30 employees because there's a lot of freaking work going on behind the scenes. All the different stuff that they're doing. Yeah, it's going to require a lot of people to all work on it. But here's the thing about being the head, being the face, is that ultimately it's your responsibility. If everything is breaking and nobody is loyal, nobody is dependable, you can't rely on anyone, people are just skating through and quiet quitting on you, that's a direct reflection on you. And I don't think that he's doing this whole thing as just like I just want to air out my frustrations in public. I think there's something deeper going on. Like he's advertising for he's fishing for a certain something of some kind. He also is angry with his employees and wants to rile them up, and so he thinks maybe if I shit on him publicly, it'll rile him up. I don't think if that's his intent. I don't think that's going to work. What he's talking about, and here here's where I'm actually sympathetic to him. I think he's got a good point. He's like, I do this, the interview show. We have spend all this money flying people in, putting them up, coordinating all of this, running this separate channel, doing all this stuff that requires all this extra staff. And he's like, I could just do the morning show by myself, stream every day, go anywhere I want, not need to have a studio, not need to hire a bunch of people, have like a skeleton crew of a couple of people to help social media and posting and producing and whatever, and make more money than he's making right now because he's paying so much in hiring all of his staff. I don't think that he's necessarily wrong in that. But that in and of itself is like, okay, bro, well, you're the one that got yourself to this point. You're the one that took on all of this stuff. And if you took it on and it's falling out on you because you couldn't coordinate everything has to run through you. This is what he's bemoaning. He's like, everything runs through me, and then I have to, something breaks, and I'm the only one that can fix it, and everyone's just kind of sitting back on their laurels. Well, yeah, you apparently hired bad people, or you haven't inspired them sufficiently to be diligent workers for you. It ultimately falls back on you. Yeah, Straight Buster, that's what it is. He wants to compete in the afternoon morning show market. And this market, Tim, this market is mine. You don't get to compete in this market. I will go to the mat with you. You will not defeat the ASTROLABE. I'll play a little bit more of this here now that I've talked. Hopefully I've broken up the clips enough. King Pill versus Tim Cast. Matt's like 6'2", 220, but Tim is spunky and has a lot of heart. Oh, sorry. I shared the wrong one. Here I am talking shit about Tim Pool, and then I fuck up.
Yeah, if we can't make cameras and a computer work, and despite all the previous failures we've had, there's not a single person here who can make sure that either the studio is operating or secondary studios operating. We've gotten to a point in the company where everyone's kind of just kicked their feet up and said, I'm doing what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And then that just means I'm Sisyphus pushing the rock up. The problem is people are sitting on the rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people are sitting on the rock, it's because you put them there. I don't want this to be. I think Tim's probably getting more heat than he deserves on this. I said I think that there's a bigger play here going on. Like someone in the chat here said, is he looking for a buyout? He mentioned that a number of times. He talked about it, like what it would take, but he's like, yeah, I don't want to hire a manager to come in and manage everything for me, because like really what it comes down to is he wants to run his show. He wants to have absolute control over everything because it's a representation of him and he's the face and he's the brand of it, which I can sympathize with. He wants to have absolute control over everything. So he doesn't want to bring in a like outside help to managerialize everything, because he recognizes the downfall of managerialism. He's talked about it a lot. And in fairness to him, he's the one, he's carved out his own niche. There's a reason that he's as big and successful as he is, because he's kind of creating this in real time, but he's running up against this problem that simply producing more and more content and just kind of hiring whoever you can get to fill in and do it, you've got a ceiling on that. And it locks you in to working exorbitant days. He's doing like 16-hour days or whatever. I think this is just the nature of this exploration of a new medium. And he's skyrocketed to the top, but great success also brings with it big problems. This ties into a thing that Jason has talked about quite a bit. All these large YouTubers that are like the slop YouTubers that do video game reviews or let's plays or whatever, that have millions and millions of subscribers, and then just overnight just nuke it and they're gone. It's been happening more and more. And I think these things are indicative of, this isn't the medium dying. This is, we're going through the infancy of these new media outlets. The old models existed. You had the TV, you had the evening newscaster, you have the AM radio guy, you have the sports jockeys, you got the old radio models. Then you get podcasting, you get live streaming. We're kind of exploring all these different niches and figuring out how they work. What I found interesting about this whole conversation, though, was less about they kind of went back and forth talking about the different various issues relating to the subject here, that he's like, I think I'm just going to nuke it all and just go to doing my morning show, and I'll make more money that way, and it'll be a lot easier, and I can travel around the country, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, I think that would be a great life to live. I sympathize with it very much. But what I found more interesting was, number one, them talking about the technicals of the YouTube algorithm. Like, you should go listen to this interview. Landau was great. And they talked about some of the technicals of the YouTube algorithm, how they gamed it to get to where they are, the types of things that it's rewarding. And then they also talked quite a bit about the state of the popular culture as it's moving away from the predominance, the heavy wet blanket of wokeism and everything that's been suffocating these spaces for a while. And there's a big world opening up where you've got the guys like they mentioned Ryan Long and Andrew Schultz, who are guys who are not necessarily explicitly political, but they're very right-wing coded. And they've got huge audiences. Lots and lots of people are very interested in them. There's so many different creative ways to explore comedy, sketches, different types of creative video and audio content now, that these mediums are not remotely expiring. We're just now beginning to crack what social media can and will be. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart right now because of some of the stuff that we're working on, which you'll see more about in the future. Yeah, I don't need to play this other clip. It's a longer clip, running the risk of getting the stream pulled. But he says, hires his skater friends to run a political podcast and is somehow shocked they don't know how to run a political podcast. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to build something, you got to make sure you build it with the right people. And I think that those critiques of him are probably legitimate. He's had a lot of turnover, and that's also kind of characteristic of the media business in general. You're going to, like, the nice thing is you get to sit here and just kind of talk for a living, but the sucky thing is that there's going to be lots of transformation and turnover constantly because it's going to, by its own nature, it's a business that evolves a lot. So last subject for the day is maybe the most important. We just hit 100 likes. Shout out to whoever was the 100th like. We just hit it. Shout out to you guys. This may be the most important of all the things we talked about today. So finite games versus infinite games. This is some LinkedIn slop, but there's a lot to it. So first of all, we'll play this clip from Simon Sinek. He says, in an infinite game, there is no winning. Instead, think of your competitors as worthy rivals, another player in the game that can reveal to you your weaknesses. I'm going to tie this into the political system.
Stop talking about the other players in your game as competitors, because competitors are there to be beaten. And so you spend all your time trying to beat your competitor in a game that's stupid, that doesn't exist. You make up your own metrics in your own timeframes. You can be a winner or a loser every day if you want. And start thinking of them as rivals. And some of those rivals are worthy of comparison. And a worthy rival is another player in the game who does some or many things better than you. They reveal to you your weaknesses, and now go make yourself a better company. And as soon as the pandemic hit, there was not a single company, zero companies on the planet Earth when the pandemic struck that was trying to beat their competition. Zero. They were just trying to survive. Well, whether it's recessionary times or a bull market, that should be your attitude always: survive. Stay in the game as long as possible. And I thought that was so funny that we had no problem taking our eyes off the competition and focus on improving our own systems and figuring ways to stay in the game. That's called infinite mindset, and it happened immediately.
Okay, so I got another thing on this real quick, but I wanted to highlight something Ryan Isaac said. He said, I can't fix this, but I don't want anyone else to either. Cerno recommended a chief of staff to make sure stuff gets done. Yeah, and that's exactly what he needs. And I think that he's, maybe to his credit, he recognizes that he just wouldn't be able to work with someone like that because he's too much of a control freak. And some people are just that way. I could fully recognize that. I'd be happy to have a chief of staff like coordinating stuff that I'm doing. I work better that way. Being the CEO and the front facing the personality, having your name on the door, like this is it's an intimidating high calling that a lot of people just aren't cut out for. I'm not saying he's wildly successful, but I'm saying that there's a cost to it. It's difficult. You have to navigate that. And bringing in a chief of staff, it would have to be a special person that could do that he would trust to just manage those things for you. And this is part of what I think he may be working at is, as D. Allman says here, he should do his AM show and let this one go on with a co-host. And this may be what that is he's teasing that idea. He talked about doing like a partial buyout and bringing in an outside company to manage some of the operations. And it could be that he's kind of subtly advertising for someone to come in and take over that show for him and operate under his banner. The question is there someone out there who would mesh with him, with his personality, and be willing to work under him and answer to him and operate within his domain? Would he actually find that to be even more work? Like, he delegates out this person who's going to manage his afternoon show, and he's going to run it. He's going to be the executive overseeing it, but then he's going to want to have like fine-tuned control over the content and the presentation and all the business decisions, and he's not going to ever let the person actually do their thing. I kind of suspect he wouldn't, and I think he knows that as well. Ryan says it'll be difficult for him to change. That's a metamorphosis, which is not comfortable. Right. So I've got a lot of sympathy and respect for the position that he's in. I think it's people are right that he's the one responsible for putting himself there. And after listening to the conversation, I don't know that he doesn't necessarily recognize that. There's one point where Lando asks him if he's autistic. He like sincerely asks him, which is kind of funny. But more on the finite infinite games here. Yeah, Amy says having PTSD flashbacks. Yes, I could speak to this because I've experienced it. Alex Hormozy, one of my favorite minds on the internet. He says most people lose because they play infinite games with a finite perspective. In a finite game, there is a clearly defined endpoint. There are winners and losers. In an infinite game, all parties work to keep playing. There are no winners or losers, only those that quit due to lack of will or resources. People treat their health like a finite game. They try to win at health, get the body, get the bikini. But the point isn't to get it, it's to keep it. Not to get in shape, but to stay in shape. People treat marriage like they're going to win at marriage, but you don't win at marriage. The point is to stay married, to keep the game going. And people misapply the same construct to business. They want to win at business, but there is no winning. There is no end. The point, like marriage and health, is to stay in business, to keep the game going. This is the most relevant frame shift I've experienced when it comes to applying game theory to everyday life. There are no winners and losers in the big games of life, only players and quitters. And this applies, obviously, directly to politics. And I think as we're working to take on the civilizational mindset, as Jason has talked about, and beginning to function as elites, reviving the American aristocratic nobility, we have to recognize that this is not a finite game that you win. It's not an election to election game. The ones who win, ironically, are the ones who don't play to win. They play to last. They play the infinite game, having the low time preference, the long horizons. It's not enough to just win. It's not enough to just exterminate your enemies, because the people who play to just exterminate their enemies are the ones who are treating it like a finite game. The act of exterminating your enemies creates more enemies and compromises your ability to sustain your wins. Which is where Christ's commandment to love our neighbors and the actual definition of Christian love is such a hack. Self-sacrifice and humility are the ways that you win the infinite game. He who puts himself last will become first. You don't win by dragging people up. You win by pushing them up from the bottom. All these sorts of things are they're sort of truisms, or they're kind of cliche little aphorisms, but it's because they're very true. And I think the greatest danger, that this is something that Jason and I are going to talk about in our conversation later this week on the second part of the series of Trump being installed, the greatest danger facing our guys right now is not whether we win or lose per se. It's how we win or lose. And the spirit of the vengeful son is going to induce a lot of people into playing the finite game and perpetuating the resentment cycle, instead of exiting it and building, getting caught up in revenge fantasies and the desire to exterminate enemies and to execute justice. Might be the way that you would win a finite game, but it's not how you win the infinite game. The great decisions, the great burdens, the great difficulties ahead of us lie in resisting the urge to play the finite game and instead focusing on the infinite game. That's why there's going to be hard times ahead of us. Because as Jason has said, the vengeful son spirit is going to feel good. It does feel good. It feels gratifying. You can rationalize it to the end of time. But that's all it is a rationalization. And then it is the trap. It is the next trap, inducing you into compromising and getting sucked into that spirit and manifesting it through a different vessel. The spirit of the vengeful son is the spirit of the devouring mother, morphing with the times. So the vengeful son is not something to embody. It's not something to perpetuate. It's not something to dig into. The rise of the spirit of the vengeful son is a cautionary tale. You don't want to embody the spirit of the vengeful son, because in so doing, you're playing right into the continuation of the same cycle of degeneracy. Instead, you have to exit that cycle and you have to embody the spirit of the prodigal son, which takes self-sacrifice and humility. That's all I got for you today, guys. Thank you for tuning in for yet another episode of the ASTROLABE. Do me a favor and hit the like button on the way out. We're at 107. Can we get to 120? We've got 122 watching right now. Can we get to 120 before the end of the live stream? There's 107. Need 13 likes there as I do the housekeeping on our way out before I give you guys Hulk. Once again, go to the King Pill Discord. Sign up, kingpill.com. If you sign up at the Lord or the King tier, then you will get the 5 free modules from Axios Fitness Coaching with the app download. And you can also complete the intake survey in the description of this video to find out if there's anything that Axios Fitness Coaching can do for you. My YouTube stream window just collapsed, so hopefully I'm still going live here. Looks like I am. Appreciate all of you who send in super chats. Go follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. Reminder, if you're someone who has creative instincts or wants to try your trade at making good audio entertainment, then I'll drop the link to the tweet calling for the Gondor calling for aid tweet. I'll drop that into the description as well. You can go there, get an idea of what we're looking for, and you can send me your creative juice output at realkingpilled@gmail.com. And I think that's all that I've got for you guys today. I'll be back tomorrow for another episode of the ASTROLABE, and later this week for a members-only conversation with Jason Miranchuk on Trump being installed. So you can also become a YouTube channel member if you want to watch that conversation live when it happens. $5 a month, you become a member of the King Pill. You have to do it from a desktop browser. You can't do it from mobile. Or you can just join the King Pill Discord. And any tier of membership in the King Pill Discord will also get access to those members-only streams live. So if you want to participate live, ask us questions, give us feedback as it's going, then that's the way to do that. Anyways, I will catch you guys tomorrow. And for now, I give you Hulk.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough.